Started. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order, and we're gonna let Mr. Sharp tell us about Bremen.
You understand, or?
No, you're fine.
I didn't know. All right. First of all, I'd like to introduce my site-based and my assistant principal. Assistant principal is Lori Stover. Site-based member Jelaine Summers. Site-based member Mandy Toomey. Site-based member Ricky Allen. I had two site-based members and had prior commitments, could not be here tonight, so we'll extend apologies for them. They could not be here tonight, so.
Well, tell them thank you for participating in SBDM and taking the time.
I will.
It pays a lot of money, he mentioned last night.
Yeah, he's being serious. We are going to thank you guys for working for nothing.
First, we'll start off kind of giving us a format, so we're going to stick to the format. We'll talk a little bit about K-Prep scores. There were some changes this year in the way K-Prep scores were reported because of the ESSA, which has not been passed yet. And if those changes kind of force us out of our comfort zone a little bit, because we're used to knowing whether we're distinguished, proficient, things like that. By our calculations, if we would have went by the scores last year, we would have been distinguished for the fourth consecutive year. But once again, the reporting system has changed. With that new reporting system, it's been inconvenient, but it's been able to let us focus really on data and look at trend lines. And one of the things that we really looked at was maybe a little bit of a decline in math. We are looking to really, one of the plans we have to kind of bump those scores back up is really use a lot of common assessments, take those common assessments and then look at the data to see where students are. We're doing a lot of pre-tests and then post-tests of the same test so that we can see the growth of students and things like that. We also have something called content advisory teams, and we put those in place. We have one for math, social studies, reading, and writing, and science as well. And those teams, basically, they're vertical teams, so you got kindergarten, first, second, third on those teams, fourth and fifth. And they look at what are best practices, what are common areas that we can get better at, things that we can do to get better, what are some gaps in instruction that may be there. And so we've met, 2 or 3 times this year, plan on additional times, but it's a good way for teachers to get together and to really work on fine-tuning their skills and the grade level before them and after them skills.
And another cool thing that we're doing, he didn't put that on here, 4th and 5th grade now have common planning time, so that way we can really collaborate with our different content.
And we're very pleased with all of the content data. We're pleased with all the scores. Really proud of the social studies, reading, and especially on-demand writing. Our on-demand writing scores were extremely high, probably some of the highest in the state. Pull it up here. 80% of our students in writing in 5th grade, 80% were either proficient or distinguished. And the writing test is it's probably the hardest test in the state of Kentucky to take. They take a 30-minute test, so they're given a prompt, 30 minutes, write out your answer, and then they turn around and take a 90-minute, right back to back. So really, several years ago, our teachers came together and said writing was a problem. How can we solve that? We aligned something called, we got a writing program where every grade level teaches a specific form of the paragraph. We felt like the students had the ideas, but they couldn't develop them. They have great ideas. I mean, you ask any of them and they'll tell you all kinds of great ideas. They needed an outline, and we really stuck to this outline, teaching them that outline, and then building on it from kindergarten all the way up to 5th grade, adding it in, and really we, inspected what we expected from them and really tried to keep on top of that. And I believe our scores have showed that over the last 2 years in writing. Other strategies to help us maintain include, I can't say enough how our teachers work so hard. They really believe in bell-to-bell instruction. I don't have any teachers that are down at the end of the school, before the end of the day. You know what I'm saying? Because those minutes are valuable, and I'm always at the end of the building trying to see if anybody's sneaking out and sneaking some time away, because the instruction time is so valuable and it's very important. We have high expectations, scrimmage testing, and standards-based units, data-driven instruction, not only having the data, but looking at it and making decisions. So many times as teachers, we get in habits, and habits are great, but we also want to make sure that we respond to what the data is. And I'm going to move on to school visit. I'm going to let my assistant principal, Lori Stover, talk about the school visits.
Hello.
Hey.
We chose our neighboring school in another county for a few reasons. One being we share a lot of students, even though they're not in our county. They are literally right next door to us. So it's called Marie Gatton Phillips Elementary School. It used to be Sacramento Elementary. But we share some students off and on throughout the years. They're close to our demographics as far as poverty level students. The difference is that the enrollment is a little bit smaller than ours. But we had a great visit there. They were very welcoming. Open door policy, anything we wanted to know or see, they were more than willing to help us with any questions we had. We wanted to know mainly about math, since that was where we were trying to focus on some improvements, so we asked them about their math instruction. Found out that they use the same textbook that we do, but they go a little further and they look and find free websites, things like that, to look for other ways to make sure that they meet the standard to help the students learn what they need to learn for each grade level. We did learn also, though, they had a special little key for motivation, and they are a one-to-one school where each student has their own laptop or iPad.
It's a laptop. Chromebooks, what's called.
So that's pretty motivational for a student to, instead of picking up the textbook to do the worksheet, they have their laptop that they use, and every student has their own. So that's motivational.
So it goes with them through 5th grade and then on to middle school? Is that how they've got their one-to-one?
I think it's through a grant, and I don't know if it goes to middle school or not, but it is through a grant, and then it's K through 5. So each student, K through 5, has the
the principal told me that a guy from Sacramento, California, a former student who was there, called and said, hey, was able to give them several thousands of dollars, and that's what he wanted to put it toward. I think what happens though, theirs is they stay at the grade level. Instead of they take them home, instead of taking them home, they stay in the grade level. So when they go to the next grade level, they'll be there. I don't know about the middle school. I don't know if they have them there or not.
But it's
kind of
not
like
one
a
that they take with them. I've
No,
seen where
ma'am.
some,
Yes.
the 9th graders get them, and then they're actually theirs after graduation.
I don't.
Yes,
So,
I've seen that too. Yes, I know.
So,
what
but
you're
you're saying that it stays, just all
think
the
they stay at
students
school.
at the school have one.
It's kind of like a textbook. You pull it out, you use it all day long, and then when it's time to go home, you put it up.
Now, what textbooks do you use for math? What's
Go
the
Math.
Go Math.
Go Math?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think we have to authorize that because it's non-approved. Is that right?
Most of the textbooks
Yeah.
are not.
No, they are-
Do you know what I mean? Like, not on the state list, but the board has to
Yeah, they are.
give the
Yes.
site base a blessing because site base, it's not on the site base list, or something's different with Go Math.
Yes.
Is this right?
Well, the difference is every year the state allows us to use textbook money for a specific subject.
Correct.
And if we do not want to purchase something with that subject with the funds, then we have to get permission to buy other subjects rather than the state designated subject.
So you like the freedom
Yes.
to be able to choose. Oh, okay.
Yes, but that the state's not going to let go. Well, they're not going to give us any money for that anymore anyway. I don't
No,
think.
but I'm just saying you like the freedom to choose what's best for your students.
Sure,
To
sure.
choose those textbooks.
Sure, and I think part of that success that we have is to teach the standards. No matter what book does it, no matter what website does it, teach the standard in every grade.
But you like that flexibility and the
Yes,
freedom
ma'am.
to do that
Yes.
for all your
But we don't use
students.
the textbook as
No.
this is it, this is all you get. It is a supplement to everything else that we pull in across the board.
Takes a lot of work to do that, but I mean the effort is very well worth it because the students get what they need to get.
We always like to kind of say a textbook is a source, not the source.
A source. What we did learn at the school visit, though, mainly is a lot of affirmations. The culture was very similar to ours as far as, the relationship building with the students. They know their kids. Of course, it's easy to know your students when you have 115 kids, 101 kids.
But y'all have a low enrollment. What's Bremen's enrollment minus Head Start? Minus Head Start?
348.
348?
Not bad shape.
We consider them
It's not bad shape.
we consider them our junior school.
Yeah.
They're so cultural.
Long club.
And their school is an older school. It reminds us of our old.
It was a little
building.
nostalgic to walk into that old building
Hardwood
too.
floor.
Especially
Yeah,
from
the
where
hardwood
you
floor.
all live.
Yes,
I can
yes.
imagine.
Well, even though our numbers are low, we do not have small class sizes though.
No.
In comparison with them.
No.
Because they would have 13 fourth graders and we don't have 13 fourth
They have
graders.
one teacher at each
No, with
level.
One teacher in each grade level.
Yeah, that's all they have.
Yeah. Now one of the other things we wanted to find out about is how did they differentiate? How do they, like we look at the data all day long and then we respond to the data and react to the data. Okay, this data says this, so we need to work on this with this student. But that's hard to do when you have a bigger class. So we're always looking for ideas. How did you manage that? How do you pull this group aside and still do that without other staff available, kind of thing? And I think mainly we learned that a lot of that is what we're already doing. The things that they had available to them, like the Chromebook, for example, just wasn't feasible for us either. For size or just that unique grant that they had, that made them stand out a little bit more than we, or what we had, or options that we would have.
One of the things that stuck out to me is, there's good pros and cons to having a smaller school like that. One of his pros was he said, I take them sometimes, I take them all outside by myself and give the teachers a little bit more time to plan. I said, I don't think I want to do that.
The teachers said, well, we can split up, and help you. And he said, if I can't handle 40 kids by myself, I don't need to be here.
So, but it was a good
Yeah, it
visit.
created, that was the last bullet on that note, was it did create a good foundation for a working relationship. And they came and visited us. They wanted to see, writing things. That was our strength that the data had shown this year. And I think we have a good working relationship with them now. And I think that's really important when we share students. We have some students a lot of times that will move to Sacramento and we know them by first name basis. We can say, hey, tell me about so-and-so. What do they need? Where, what's going on? And the more you know, the better you can help them always.
And before we really called it a school visit, Mr. Farley and I really wanted to call it a school partnership, so that, I would visit once and then he would visit and we would gain, common ground on some things. All right, we'll move on to culture. I'm a big believer in culture. I tell my teachers and students and faculty and staff that there's nothing that I wouldn't do in the whole school, whether it's clean up something or flag down a bus that may be running off that forgot somebody. I want us to be able to do multiple different things. I want us to have our staff to have a good common working relationship where we know that we have to do what's best for the kids that we have. One of the things we talk about every month, I talk about it at the site-based, I like to talk about it at the board meetings, something called an Eagle Pride moment, and it's for faculty and students. So it is for students, but it's also for faculty members. Whenever they show a great academic gain or a high character moment. So let's say a kid picks up trash and nobody asked him to, and or let's say that somebody had decided to sit with somebody who maybe nobody was sitting with. We really want to really lift those people up, because we want, yes, we want students to be leave our school in high academic standing, but we also know that you can measure a kid more than just what they can do academically, and that's very important to us. And as a staff, I want my staff to learn to compliment each other and build each other up, and I think that's good when they can do that for each other. And at the end of the week, the names go in and we do a little drawing at the end of the week. The kids love it. They love to get their name called and they get something. And then the teachers, really, they kind of fight over some of the small things that are available for them to have. They like to hear their name called out at the end of the day.
They want to win.
And,
Not gonna lie. I may push a kid out of the way to get a candy bar. Maybe a Sharpie.
A Sharpie.
About the Eagle Pride moments, I can't open the email at the end of the month until I get home because I boo-hoo like a baby when I read
I
it.
see, I see the report all the time, the
And I'm just
kids
like, oh,
and
that's so
everything.
precious. That's what I love.
And,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is.
Pretty cool. And, it's a real easy thing to do, but it's worth the work, We also have a leadership team, and that's where we have a member of each grade level and each department, and then classified as well. They have a position there, and that's a way I'm dedicated to meeting every month and to putting on there a time for them to have open discussion, because I feel like if they have a system where they can say, hey, this is not working, or this is not working like it should, or I feel like this is not, I feel like that's important to them, because I feel like if we don't have a spot to kind of come together and find common ground, that things can build. So it's really important, first of all, to build consistency between grade levels. So like, for example, if we're doing a presentation, like if we have a Zoodles presentation, which we had that, and we had this little baby kangaroo and a snake, we'll go back the next month and do a reflection where we can say this went well, this didn't go well, and I tell them all the time. I told a couple people, I said the easiest way to get better is reflect, find out what worked well, do that. What didn't work well, don't do that anymore. And
Like when we have the Halloween parade.
when we have the Halloween parade and the superintendent comes in and kind of tries to fire them up and stuff, and
Don't do that anymore.
We voted.
You've made a list.
but
It was my favorite Halloween parade ever
I'm
this year.
sure it was.
But it's just such a good tool, and we actually recently voted to make it a standing committee in our site base. We just approved that. We felt like we had the site-based policies. I'm not gonna say it was, there were some things there that I needed to work on. That maybe my predecessor. No, I better not say. Chairman. But
Go ahead and talk.
one of the two committees we have is the leadership team, and I'm just explaining that. But the safety team, Mr. Allen is on our safety team, and we needed the safety team to report to executive session, because we want our site base to know about what the safety team looks at, but we don't want bad people to look on the outside and have open records to find out what our safety plan is. So that safety committee reports directly to our executive session, okay? And we have several first responders, myself, the head custodian, 3 teachers, and 2 classifieds. One of the things I'll get to school safety here in a minute, but I just want to commend Mr. Allen on, I'm going to tell you guys, he's worth it, he's great with what he does.
And you have
quiet. I
you have a
can't
school
believe it.
resource officer? You have a school resource officer?
Well, we
Bremen?
share Mr. Allen.
Right,
Yeah.
but with who else?
All the
All the
elementaries and middle.
Oh, okay.
And middle.
And middle.
Okay.
All elementary and middle.
But he helps me out in so much, and I'm going to give a shout out to my head custodian. He helps me out too. I mean, we can't do it alone. To keep them safe, it takes multiple eyes. And I'll move on to trying to build really good relationships with all my students and my faculty and my staff. I'm different. I'm different from Mr. Davis, and I told him that.
Hold on a second. You want to build good relationships and you're different from me. Is that what he just said?
That's what he just said.
Emphasis on good.
And my first years, it's going to be, good, bad, or whatever. There's going to be differences in the way I handle things, the way Mr. Davis and the staff and the site base have been really good about it. In fact, we just purchased e-meeting, the same software you guys use for your board meeting. We had a training on that. Moving on to safety, you see the safety team there. They also review our emergency management plan, which is good to have our first responders to see that document. It's important that we have multiple people looking at things that I can't do it all. I can't check every door. And so our teachers have been just incredible. I've talked to them multiple times about emergency is called emergency because you can't plan for it. That's why it's called an emergency, and we have to be prepared for that and stay calm and give directions. I tell my students, listen to adults. You know, in a time when it's going to be something emergency, stay calm and listen to an adult. But one of the major things with the safety team is to work on drills and procedures and just to help make the school as safe as possible. And like I said, the teachers, man, they Mr. Sharp, Mr. Sharp, this door is it's not working right. So I go down there and check on it. Mr. Sharp, I don't know if this is working right. It needs to be checked on. So more eyes protect the whole group.
That's good.
So, and I also had, this year I had Mr. Denny Vincent from Kentucky Center for Safe Schools. He came to the walkthrough of the building. He and with my head custodian and myself, and gave us many suggestions. We put a lot of them in place. One of the things we're trying to do every month is, we're supposed to always check our fire extinguishers. With that, we're adding in a safety walk. Check every door on the outside, see if it locks. We found one that if you kind of just gave it a mighty, I had to put a mighty tug. Mr. Davis said he just had to just barely open it. But even though it was locked, it would open, but we got that figured out and we got it solved. Without that safety walk, that probably doesn't happen. So, just really proud of all the site-based members because they, like you said, what they have to do is a tough job. It is, they're not paid, but they care about our school, they care about our kids, and they want to make sure that we have the best possible place for them to go, to be loved, to be taken care of. And I think with recently the tragedy at our school, we lost a student named Levi Case. I can't say enough how these people just came in and all the people, the community just wrapped their arms around that family. And it's going to be tough. It's going to be a process because he has an older brother that still goes to school at Bremen. We'll deal with it the best way we can. I pray I never have to do that again. But our community really supports our school, and we thank them for that. And I love Bremen Elementary. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And proud of all these guys. And that's all I have. Y'all have any questions?
Greenville Elementary don't want you back.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
We probably wouldn't let him go.
You know,
Depends on.
that's what they said to us.
Did they say that?
They came so sharp yesterday.
So quickly. So quickly they forget.
And I asked Mr. Sharp to at least go 1 year before he started making improvements, and he did not do that. He didn't wait at all. It was like the first day. So, nice
You all have a
job.
lot to be proud of,
We are
all the
very
way
proud of our
through,
school.
but those test scores in writing are just outstanding. I mean, a lot to be proud of.
And like I said, I tell the staff, I tell the students, test scores are great, but I want you to be a good person too.
Exactly.
That matters more than anything.
Absolutely.
And how
The way you're learning from other schools and working together, I mean, a lot to be proud of.
Thank you.
Soft skills are important.
Just don't pay a lot of attention to Ricky.
I usually get the snacks and water.
Just like such a good
I
job.
bring the snacks, water, and
He's
good.
the jerk.
Than over here. Oh, really? You need my commotion, that's his job.
And they can't stop a meeting without me.
We'll go forever.
Any other questions or any comments?
I do. When you have your site-based budget, could you tell me what your per pupil spending is? We don't ever see your site-based budget, so
Yeah.
what's your per,
I
what
could-
are
I
you
could get that
spending
to
per
you.
student?
I could get that to you.
Okay.
I don't have that information right off the top of my head.
Okay.
And all of
didn't
those are
know.
on the website, where the test scores are, they're all there.
No, it's.
And if you ask those teachers,
I haven't been able to find it.
say not enough.
It's been removed or it's not.
Probably about 75 cents.
It used to be available.
And then out of my pocket, about $300,000.
They would say not enough, but I can get that to you. We try to save a lot of our money because we know that there's textbooks or.
Yeah, I didn't know we had an elementary school resource officer. At Greenville, we didn't even know. I never remember a visit or anything or any mention last year. So I just thought I would share that because, I mean, I know that each, whether it's primary or secondary, they have their needs for that. But I knew we had, 2 at the high school? Mm-hmm. And we have one, so
One
then
for
there's
all the
3.
rest of them. Mm.
There's 3
He
total.
also does a leadership group of kids at each school.
Not just
Okay.
safety.
Not just safety.
Yeah.
And at Greenville last year, he helped me out quite a bit as well. There.
I've just never heard, never.
I do about 400 school visits a year.
Okay.
All 5 elementaries, the middle school and Renaissance.
Okay.
6 schools.
So you do middle school and the Renaissance?
Yes, ma'am.
But we know we still have the 2 at the high school, right? Thank you.
You get stuck at North Middle a lot though, right?
Yeah,
Get stuck at all of them a lot.
that's right. They think of you
Of course, middle schools need a little more attention due to the age.
Right.
Any threats take a little bit, you take them all seriously, but middle school and high school, you have to be very careful.
yes.
But a lot of my job is not the safety part. A lot of my job is coming in and helping the teachers and the families just being an extension. For example, I do leadership programs at the elementary school for at-risk kids. I do programs like at the middle school. The other day I did 7th grade programs for cell phone usage and inappropriate photos. I talk about drugs and alcohol, bullying, whatever the teachers may need. That's what. And then I even do a couple hygiene classes in elementary schools per year.
Okay.
Great job.
And Thursday night, we have the board meeting at our place.
Oh, is it at Bremen?
And I can take y'all around and I can show you everything you need to know about Bremen Elementary.
I'd like to see that.
I'll take you around and I will show you every nook and cranny.
Yeah. We
I
played
didn't wanna
enough
say it.
basketball there. They got enough basketball.
Yeah.
My son played.
Yeah.
Early in the year, we had a student that was a little upset because Mr. Davis wasn't going to be there, and I just wanted to call you out again and thank you for kind of embracing him because he was really nervous about it, and he lives with a grandmother and doesn't have a best home situation, and he said, I just don't know. I said, no, Mr. Sharp's going to be fine, I promise. And I think I emailed her or whatever, I think the next day you kind of had a one-on-one with him, and since then he's been fine, and he's just a special kid to me, in my work, and, he's my little buddy. So I'm glad that you took that on, took him under your wing because he kind of needed it. So
We're all very sorry about the loss of student, it's,
Can't imagine.
what you guys go through and, looking at other kids and that's tough,
So it'll take a long
no doubt about,
time.
oh yeah. It's like your child.
We told the family we're in it for the long haul. We're here to support them for the long term because it's going to be a process for them. So.
Just imagine.
you have lost a student before a couple of
Yeah,
years
it's-
ago. We had,
Yeah.
Yes.
5th grader.
that's still hard.
2 many.
Yep.
Great job, guys. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank y'all for your time.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Thank y'all very much. We're going to share a few things. We'll talk about the 4 areas we kind of talked about: K-Prep data, school visit, school culture, and school safety. First, I want to introduce everyone that's here. On the end is Miss Jamie Randolph, our school counselor. Then we have Miss Stephanie Thompson, teacher at Greenville, but also a parent on our site base. Miss Helen Eves, parent on our site base. Mr. Patrick Durow, 8th grade language arts teacher. Miss Sarah Carey, 6th grade language arts teacher. Miss Gwen Carver, 6th grade math, she switched a few years ago, 6th grade math teacher. And not that it matters, but this is Mr. Lloyd right here. But just to start, and I gave you the handout with some of that information, so I'll go over some of this. I won't read through this word for word, just kind of give you an overview. But overall, our achievement score did improve. And when the scores came out in the Messenger Inquirer, it listed all of the middle schools between Hancock, McLean, Owensboro, Davis, Ohio, Muhlenberg, 8 total middle schools. So you kind of see the next 4 bullets are where we ranked amongst those counties. In reading, we were 2nd place, only behind Davis County. And that's Davis County Middle School. So that means we did beat Apollo, we beat College View, which those are the schools I kind of look at because they typically do well. In math, very impressive first place out of all of those schools. So very, very pleased with that. Writing was third, only behind Davis and Ohio. So very pleased with that. And then social studies was third, only behind Davis and Hancock. So when those came out, I'm very impressed with those. And all of that credit goes to our teachers who do a phenomenal job day in, day out. Can't say enough good things about them and the good jobs that they do. When you start talking about areas of improvement, I put out beside parentheses, put all, because no matter what our scores are, we're always trying to get better, better today than we were yesterday. So we're always trying to improve. The next several were areas that were specific areas that we really want to focus on. And first, we wanted to look at language mechanics. And you kind of see that will not be tested in 17 and 18. So one of the areas that we were, to be honest, it was interesting when we got these scores back because they were taught in the 6th grade. And Miss Carey and Miss Adams wore it out last year. And the scores didn't show the work that they did, but probably tried more last year and put more effort into it than we ever have, and the scores weren't there. But the good news, it's not tested anymore at any grade level, so that's good for us. Then writing, and then everyone is looking at gap and growth, trying to improve those, and everyone's looking at students with disabilities, that non-duplicated gap group, trying to improve those numbers. Something that I think, and I've already kind of said this, but I feel is our strength at South Middle is a good core group of teachers. From every one of them, practical arts, any grade you pick, we have some good teachers, and that means a lot. Another thing that we do, myself, Ms. Randolph, and Mr. Gloyd, we take every student at the school and we split them into thirds, and we meet one-on-one with those students about their K-Prep scores. We look at what they score, we have them set a goal for this current school year, and then we tell them, next year we're meeting again and we're going to see how close you got to your goals, and then we're going to set new goals so that they know that we're looking at the scores. It's not just the number, but they know we're looking. The teachers have those talks with them as well. And the last bullet on that is Miss Carey is, as I mentioned, 6th grade language arts teacher, and she is on the state ELA Standards Review Committee. She was in Frankfurt just a week or two ago, and so Miss Carey, you want to share anything on that?
Sure.
Anything?
Back in, I think it was September, in one of the commissioners' emails, they opened up for teachers to submit their application to be a part of a group that was going to revise the English language arts standards for the whole state of Kentucky. So, crazy me applied for it, not really thinking I would get it, but I know that the western part of the state seems to be less present in those sort of activities. So I applied for it, did not think I would get it, but I got chosen. And I wasn't really sure what I was getting myself into, but it was a whole lot of work. And then when I got there, I realized it was even more work than I thought it was going to be. It was a week ago, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I went to Frankfurt. There was about 40 teachers selected total, and they divided us up into like K through 5, middle school 6 through 8, and high school 9 through 12. And then we were subdivided according to like grade levels, like kindergarten, 1st grade, 2nd and 3rd, 4th, 5th. I worked just with 6th grade teachers, and then there was a group of 7th and group of 8th, and then high school subdivided as well. The first day we were there, we met with the Commissioner of Education. He came and talked to us and really kind of set the tone for the next 3 days, what he wanted us to get accomplished. We were able to ask him some questions about the future and, what's going to be happening and what is the governor expecting to do with us. And so we got to ask some questions and speak with him a little bit. And then the next 3 days, we basically took all of the writing, the language, the reading informational, and the reading literary standards and rewrote them. And we focused mostly on trying to make them more concise and clarified so that they would make more sense to the teacher, which would make more sense to the student. And we found that was quite an arduous task, We worked very hard on it. We had some public input. They had sent a poll out to administrators and teachers, parents, students. So we did have some poll information to kind of guide what we were trying to accomplish. They were very complimentary in saying that we as the teachers were the experts and that what we felt was right for kids, they trusted what we had to say. So that felt really good. The second day, we were tasked with not only changing and revising the standards, but backing them up with research, which added another layer of difficulty. And we worked even harder the second day. The third day, we tried to wrap it all up. It will be presented to a committee fairly soon, and that committee can either agree with what we did and send it out for public comment, or it can be kicked back to the committee, our committee, and asked for more revisions. So we're kind of waiting on results from them, and they said probably we'd be back in March or April to do whatever this board or panel has asked us to do. So I'll let you know what happens, but I felt really good about the work we did, and it was an honor to be there. You know, I felt like I represented the western part of the state. There was only one other teacher kind of from our area, and she was from Paducah. Everybody else was, you know, kind of from the Frankfurt area east. So I was pleased to be there. So thank you.
So you feel that it's going to be well received by teachers and we're kind of moving in the right direction?
To give you the bad news, the commissioner said that this panel that the standards will go to has been half replaced already by people that Governor Bevin has chosen. And then in March, the other half will be replaced. And he said, unfortunately, the governor is not real fond of Common Core, and all of our standards are written towards Common Core. So he said, do not be surprised if these get kicked back saying we don't want Common Core, which would mean all the work we did was for nothing. So fingers crossed that won't happen. And math had gone the week before, English Language Arts, and they told them the exact same thing.
But I don't think families like Common Core. I mean, the math, elementary math, I know y'all are middle school, but that's
awful.
I mean, I mean, that's just my take. I think Kentucky was the first state that took Common Core and said yes to it. So I'm not really sure that families like, so not to discount the work, but you know, if there's a common ground within English Language Arts, I mean, I always hear about the bad side of math with Common Core, but I hadn't heard anything on Language Arts. So
English Language Arts is fine.
It's fine?
Yes, just a little bit of revision, making things a little more clear, you know. There were fuzzy areas, and then there were also some standards that really needed to be done away with and integrated into other core contents. So we tried just to make it more friendly, make it make sense to teachers, and you know, that's kind of what we did. I'm not sure about the math.
maybe Dr. Pruitt will agree with what y'all did.
Yes,
So,
hopefully.
okay, well, good.
I'm very appreciative of Ms. Carey for doing that,
Yeah.
because that gives our ELA teachers the advantage when they have their PLCs and talk. Those conversations were ahead of the game, so very appreciative of that. Moving next to our school visit, we did attend James Madison Middle School, which is in Hopkins County. And, you know, the takeaways we received from that were just some reminders of things we did in the past, that just reminders, don't forget to do this. One was making sure our on-demand across all grade levels, that was consistent. And then also those tested, those who are not tested to assist after spring break, just as a refresher. If I'm a science teacher, I'm going to start seeing, okay, social studies, what do you need to do here that we can help revisit? So that was good. And probably the biggest takeaway we had came from our post-school when we came back and we met as a group. And Mr. Davis was with us, and he shared some things that they did. I think it was at Bremen, may have been North Middle, I think it was Bremen. And that's that last bullet, have content teachers give other teachers break during testing, because if I'm a social studies teacher and they're testing math, I really don't know what good effort is. But if a math teacher just walks around, doesn't help them, but just kind of walks around, they'll know if they're giving a good faith effort. So we're looking to implement that this year, which will be new for us. Miss Carey went with us on that. I had Miss Carey, Miss Grice, and Mr. Jones. They went with us to James Madison. Miss Carey, do you have anything else you want to add about our school visit?
They had a lot of good things that they were doing that I think we were doing. I told Mr. Lyle that I was glad to get home to my school. I didn't want to stay. I liked what they were doing, but I like what we were doing
James
better.
Madison, you liked what they were doing, but you
I liked what they were doing, but I like what we're doing better.
Good.
We have an unbeatable school culture at our school. We all like each other. We all get along. We like our kids. We work hard. And
it shows in your test scores. Y'all should all be
I
proud.
think it does.
Thank you.
And I'm not going to say they don't have that, but I think we have them beat. So I was glad to get home. Told Mr. Lyle he did not have to worry about me applying over there. I was going to stay right where I was.
All right, so your challenge with the rest of the district to get that culture, especially at the high school, get that cohesion going, right?
And it's a big undertaking, and we've come a long way, and you know, and I've said this already, but I can't brag on the staff enough. You know, they make that easy. Makes it easy for myself and Mr. Gloy, which leads us right into the next thing, school culture. The numbers you have on your paper, those are some, well, let me back up. First of all, on school culture, Mr. Gloyd and I did have the opportunity at KSA last year, and we presented a session on improving school culture, and I'm not bragging or boasting, but it was standing room only, and I had a great crowd for that. But you see the behavior events there. Mr. Gloyd's going to go over that in just a little bit more. But in 14-15, we had 1,119 behavior events. Last year, at the end of last year, 350.
Awesome.
That's amazing.
Congratulations.
And I hate to say it because he's sitting here, but a lot of that credit goes to this guy right here. Mr. Gloyd does a fantastic job. Going along with school culture, our teacher attendance since 15-16, and you have to remember 15-16 is when we took the pay cut. Since that time, our teachers stepped up, and luckily we had a staff that was willing to get better and not bitter. And so they were looking to get better. Our teacher attendance has went up 57% since that time, and it has improved again this year. That next bullet, student attendance strategies. Before the flu hit, that was said student attendance improvement. Right now, we're not improvement, but we've tried several things to raise attendance. We have one thing that hangs in our commons. It says "Outshine the stars," and basically just trying to, you know, that rivalry, use that. And if they have less than 20 absent, we put a sun up over one of the letters of stars, and if they get enough, if they cover up the word stars with suns, then we put. They get 10 minutes extra of lunch ball, get to sit where they want at lunch, and free stuff. You know, it doesn't cost a dime. One of the things we were very proud of, and Ms. Carver was able to attend this with us, but we were a member of the top 10 2017 Tell Kentucky Winter Circle schools, and they really focused on discipline and school culture this year. And so that was one of the things, and that comes all off of the Tell survey. And very pleased with our Tell survey results. The other things, I won't go through those. Those are just things that we do. The book studies, Thank You Thursdays, the weekly email that we send out, I think that helps with the school culture, gets the community buy-in. Currently, I'm doing a blog on KSA for improving school culture, so that goes out once a month. And then we have our father, son, mother, daughter nights, all of those things that are listed there. A lot of those you are familiar with. When you talk about school culture, and I'm going to say this so he doesn't, but my truth is, and I firmly believe this, school culture has a lot to do with discipline. If discipline is taken care of in the school, and the teachers know that you got their back, and that if a kid comes down to the office, he's not going back to that classroom, because honestly, the teacher and the student needs a break. And so they're not going back. But if the discipline is taken care of, and the kids know what the expectations are, the kids know that, hey, if I go up front, it's not going to be good. Teachers know I seen a kid, they got my back, means a lot. And I think it has a lot to do with our culture. So I have Mr. Lloyd share some things with us about school culture.
Actually, he stole everything. He said everything I was going to say.
I tried the best I could.
No other secrets.
Now, which I'm a firm believer in the discipline aspect as well. He mentioned some numbers, and this is something I take pride in with the numbers. I know in 2014-15, he said there's 1,119 events that school year that involved 256 students. Then 15-16, which was my first year, we had 618 events that involved 186 students. Then last year, we ended up with 350 events with involving 131 students. And currently, we have 134 events this year, which is involving 80 students, which compared to last year's numbers from this time, we're actually down 110 events, which I'll be honest, 350 events last year, I didn't think we was going to top that. But we're actually
tracking better now.
Yeah, we're down 110 events compared to this time last year. So, pretty proud of that. Some of the things that I feel with our students and everything that, I think our kids like coming to school, and some of the things I think that we do, it's lunch ball. At lunch, they have an opportunity to eat, but about the last 10 minutes or so, we'll let them go in the gym. I'll take them in the gym. We'll either play dodgeball or basketball or something. And honestly, I can just make them run, and they'd love it. Because they get to exert some energy and everything. And we get more bang for our buck with lunch ball than anything. If a kid's not getting their work turned in, they'll send me an email saying such and such don't need lunch ball. We'll keep them out. And that works really well. And just to add to our student attendance, if we have like 3 or less absent in that one day, like that class has 3 or less absent that one day, we'll go and give them 10 minutes extra lunch ball that day and everything. So that doesn't happen often, but still, when it does, we want to reward them. We'll take a day, like right before Christmas break, we had our annual dodgeball tournament. And that's actually a school-wide fundraiser that we do, to create some funds, which goes into another student project at the end of the school year, which is our Extreme School Makeover. Last year we had that, and we got plans for our second one this spring as well. And all of our money that we raised from the dodgeball tournament, we'll be able to put it right back into it. So we probably raised roughly around $2,500 from that dodgeball tournament to put in that our Extreme School Makeover for this spring. Map rewards, we do our map testing, in the fall, the winter, and spring. And we do some different things with our kiddos that I think they enjoy. We do a South Middle shootout game, which actually you can involve 150 kids at one time on the gym floor doing a game and everything, and they love it. And especially the 6th grade. As they get older, sometimes the physical activity wears out a little bit, but 6th and 7th grade, they really love it. 8th grade kind of slacks a little bit, but we do South Middle Survivor. We'll do an activity where it's all kinds of different things. They're on teams. You got 150 kids competing at one time, having a blast. We do a tug of war challenge. Then after we do our Extreme School Makeover in the spring, we're going to have our. This will be the first time we do this, but it's called the South Middle Water Wars and everything, and we'll get to involve water and get each other wet and have a big time after we do our big project. But just there's just a few things that we've done, that I think the students really enjoy, and we're always doing something, and trying to reward, for whatever, and I think the kiddos really enjoy that.
And then the last thing on there is school safety. Just real quick, just hit a few things. As you guys know, we've had the active shooter trainings. We've now had 2 at South Middle, and that emergency drills with a twist. When we do emergency drills and it's a lockdown, we don't hesitate to pull a fire alarm. See what the reaction is. The first time we did it, we had 2 classes come out.
Oh.
And if you make a mistake, the drill time is the time to do it, not when it's real. Since then, not one class comes out. I've tried to get on the intercom and say all clear rather than us going. Nobody comes out. Today was with the 8th grade, tomorrow 7th grade, Thursday is 6th grade, talking about school safety since Marshall County recently, going around and just letting kids ask me any questions that they might have. What questions do we have? And that was a recommendation of Mr. Davis for all the principals to do, and had very good conversations today. And I think it helps put kids at ease just to be able to ask a question. What would I do if it's in the Commons, or what would I do? And my instructions to them is we talk about what to do at school, but I tell them, don't think just school. Think big picture, because it could be a mall, it could be the grocery store, movie theater. It's sad to say it doesn't matter where you're at in our world anymore. And so I tell them it's not too long. Middle schoolers, I was 8th grade today, it's not too long before they're in college. I said, you guys have got to start thinking of just having a plan no matter where you go. So I had some good conversations today, and can't give enough credit to Wes Miller, who does our active school trainings, or active shooter trainings. But he's at our school every morning before school. He just hangs out in the lobby, tells kids good morning, and I think that's as powerful as anything, an officer's presence. And actually, I think it was this morning that Sheriff Curtis and him were both there. So that's always great to see. So very, very pleased with that. Any of my teachers or parents or guidance have anything else you want to share? Or any?
I will shout out Ricky Allen. He's in our buildings quite a bit as well. I want to throw a little shout out for Ricky Allen as well. I know you guys just got through talking to him. He's in and out of our building too.
Looking at him too.
Yes.
Do you think that teachers and staff should have some sort of armed weapon on them? Do you think after all the training, I mean, maybe middle school and high school are different, but it seems to be a topic.
It was, and that was actually a question I received today from an 8th grader, because I told him, I said, ask anything. And I received that question, so I gave him, I said, this is
your opinion.
My opinion. I said, take it for what it is, because you can ask half people and they'll say yes, the other half say no. This is mine. I said, right now, how many guns are in our school? None. I said, if every one of my staff members have one, now there are 50 guns in my school where there were none before. And they have not been trained like police officers have been trained. To me, it's just 50 guns that are in there that weren't in there before. And it's all it takes is a kid or a teacher to leave one somewhere, or a kid to come by and grab one off somebody's hip. And now you've got a situation that before wasn't a problem. That's my
But
take.
it's the conversation that needs to be taking place. So what's best? So
How were they as far as talking to an adult? And I know you'd ask them, would they tell an adult if they heard a rumor? What was that?
What I did today, and to be honest, I've only went through one class, but I had them take out a piece of paper before I ever started my conversation. And I told them to write their name and at least one adult that they're comfortable with going to. And so far I went through one class. A lot of them gave me, this teacher, that teacher, Mr. Gloy, Mr. Lyle, Ms. Randolph, just different things like that. So, and for the most part, looks like they all have someone, but my conversation was, what I want is when I go through those, if I see a kid that says no one, that kid's gonna have a talk and just say, hey, come to me if nobody else. So that's why I had them put their name on it. And I told them, I said, I'm not giving this to a teacher, just me and you, that I know you got somebody to go to. So, like I say, I've got a stack, all my 8th graders are on my desk today. I haven't been through them all. But it was good. Good conversations today.
do you have concerns with test scores or student achievement at our high school? You see your success, and then they're the next stopping point. Do you think we should have 2 campuses like before? I'm gonna put you on the spot because y'all are successful. You've got the culture and the collaboration going on in your building, and that definitely affects the students. So expand a little bit about your thoughts there.
I don't know that I have enough knowledge to know that for sure, because I'm not on the high school day-to-day basis to know what's going on, what is, what isn't.
But you've seen the test scores,
right?
So I'm just saying, you don't want to lose them. Middle school's a building. You should keep building, right?
Right. And I think culture is where it starts. You know, culture's got to take place first. Like one of y'all, Sheila, maybe met you that.
But you can
culture
figure it out
comes
at the middle
from.
school level. I'm just saying, what happens? You know, do we need to go back to 2 campuses so that it's easier to hone in on that culture?
Right. And I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. I wish I did. If I did, I'd be a rich guy and I'd travel the state. But I do know one thing is, you know, as kids, because we see it in the middle school, 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade, as they get older, sometimes their interests are a little bit different. And I know that's even more of a battle at the high school level. But it's hard for me to answer that, not because I'm not in the school on a day-to-day basis. I don't know. I just don't know. I'm not there to know what is and what isn't happening.
I just want to say I've always admired your school and the test results, the culture. I mean, I think other schools need to be coming, learning from you all.
Well, thank you.
You do a great job, Brian.
Thank you.
All of you.
I just had a parent in the other day to bring their child in for some shots and was bragging. I always ask everybody, you know, what about, you know, whatever school that their child attends, you know, what do you like, what do you not like, everything going well? I mean, that's how I find out a lot of things, because, you know, parents, hey, they're going to tell you, they're going to tell you what they like, what they don't like. So being in the profession I'm in, I see a lot of people from the community. So the other day I just had one in that their child goes to your school and just said, that school is phenomenal and is the best school that their kid has ever attended. I think they use the words, Mr. Lyle runs the school like a well-oiled machine, and those things are always good to hear. You always want to hear the positive, because us as board members, most of the time we hear the negative. We hear the negative or we hear the negative, so I love hearing the good things, if things are not going so well, which I think this year has probably been the best year we've had. I don't know. My phone has not rang hardly at all, so that's a good thing. But there's always going to be someone that has something to say, and most of the time it's going to be the negative. But I enjoy hearing the positive, and I've always heard all positive for South Middle. So I'm proud of you all and your test scores. It's obvious, your culture is what it needs to be for the kids to be successful, and I just hope, that we can always find a way, from the 8th grade to the 9th grade, like Shelley's mentioning, going into the high school, for you all, for North Middle, that we can transition these kids better to where they will be more successful. I don't know where the disconnect is sometimes when you get from that middle school to high school level, but to me it seems like that there's something that's keeping these kids from moving on like they've come, from middle school and elementary. So it'd just be interesting to kind of see if we can ever find that problem area.
That happened to my daughter. She went from the 8th grade to freshman, and she wanted to be homeschooled. And I was like, Carson, what's going on? And I don't know if it started from the bus of her just feeling like she didn't have any friends, and all her friends went to their different ways. And then her sophomore year, she got better. And now she's a junior. But my son Xavier, he loves these teachers. When he first started, he was afraid. He was scared to death. And that's all he does now, especially Miss Ashley, which is his math teacher. He loves her. And he's doing so much better. So much better. Mr. Clark probably could tell you that. He is.
I was concerned too, when my son went from Bremen, the smallest school in the county, to North Middle, and I thought, oh my gosh, and you've got all these kids filtering from these other schools, and all of a sudden you go from a class size of, I don't even know how many Bremen grade up, 50, 40, something, I don't know, but anyway, to like a huge class. And I thought, his 6th grade year, there wasn't a lot of people in his classes that were his friends. He would see them in the hallway and pass them, but not necessarily the people he had been through from kindergarten through 5th grade, which as a parent for me was a concern, because I thought, gosh, he's not a social butterfly or anything like that, but yet he's not really backward. And I knew he could make friends easily, but it's just, you just worry about your kid, because you want them, it was just out of their comfort zone to go to a bigger area. So then with that being said, from middle school, you're 3 years with the same kids in middle school, but then you're going to an even bigger, so now you've got North and South Middle going to East Campus. So it's another transition there again, so.
And I'll say
that,
this.
the size of the
Transition
school.
could be easier if you had 2 high schools, because then you could,
I'll say
And
this.
the
I
atmosphere
commend
can be
you.
similar.
I'll say this. Your scores speak for themselves. I mean, you can look at the paper and see that. But walking into your school, it just feels good. And y'all have made me feel so welcome. And lunchroom lady saved me a little food there too. And,
That's lunch.
the poppy seed chicken is top of my list.
I like that salad, by the way. I like that salad.
But I commend you. You got a good thing going on.
What do y'all do, were doing on lunchtime that day, raffle, or what was that going on?
Was that MAP Awards?
What was it now?
When we did the drawings when they were there? I think it was.
Was it bracelet or
Oh,
something?
yeah. It was for the MAP Rewards.
Okay.
Those that qualified for the MAP Rewards, we gave them those bracelets, and that's what we're calling out.
Okay.
Those names.
Yeah, they don't have a bracelet. They're not able. That way the teachers know who's eligible and who's not.
Got it.
Yep.
Okay. Very good.
Well done.
Thank you very much.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for your support.
Y'all did a
Appreciate
great
it.
job.
The opportunity to come, and like I said, you all asked the site base to come, so I'm going to keep a lot of my comments short, because if you wanted to talk to me, you would just ask me to come and not them. But just had some notes on the talking points that I was given, and I'll let Ms. Markwell kind of start with how we analyzed our K-Prep data. This was our disaggregation of data today, and this was pretty much what our takeaways were, our concerns, and our next steps and goals. I shared this with Mr. Davis on the day that we did this, and so just want to kind of share with you all kind of what we did with the data, and Ms. Markwell can kind of share with you kind of the highlights here a little bit.
Some of our highlights or takeaways are positive takeaways. We reduced novice in reading from 17.7 to 14.4%. We increased proficient in reading from 24.7 to 26.6%. Math distinguished increased from 7.2 to 8.2%. Writing had a reduction in novice from 15.6 to 13.9%. And our writing distinguished increased from 5.3 to 11.9%. Resulting in an increase in proficient and distinguished from 37.8 to 40.2%. Our language mechanics distinguished increased from 16.0 to 21%. Our social studies distinguished increased from 13.6 to 20.6%. And our reading proficient and distinguished gap score increased from 57.7 to 58.1%. Our reading and math student growth percentile increased from 54% to 58.6%, and our reading overall growth increased from 64% to 65.8%. We scored above state average in reading, social studies, and writing for proficient and distinguished. Increased proficient and distinguished in gap score for reading. Some of our concerns is our school decreased 1.4% in academic score. Our percent novice increased in math, social studies, and language mechanics. Percent proficient decreased in math and social studies, writing, and language mechanics. And we scored below state level at all grade levels in math and 10% lower in 8th grade math. We scored below state average in proficient distinguished in language mechanics by 3.4%. Also, one of our concerns is our special education students population is growing rapidly every year. Presently, we have 80 special education students and about 55 504 students with special needs. So that is accounting for a lot of our novices.
And one thing I want to add is that even though we did have a 1.4% decrease in academic score, we did increase in our gap in our growth, more so this year than last year. That made up for that 1.4 decrease in academic score.
What makes up academic score?
The academic score is like the reading, the math.
Everything together?
Yes, but then there's separate scores. It takes about an MIT mathematician to figure this out, but we decreased in our academic score, but we gained ground in our gap and growth scores.
Okay.
And so that actually made up for the 1.4% decrease in the academic score.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Yes, go ahead. Heather.
Okay, so with that last statement that she said about the language mechanics, for those of you who don't know, I'm Heather Harrison. I'm a teacher at North Middle. I teach 7th grade language or social studies, and so to go along, while I almost said language arts, is I was thinking about the language mechanics and that decrease. And one factor you have to consider, in the last few years, we've went from 5 teachers per team to 4 teachers per team. And so instead of, we used to have 1 teacher that taught the mechanics and 1 teacher that taught reading. And now that teacher is teaching the mechanics, the reading, the spelling, the writing all together. And so that would be one factor that would have contributed to that decrease. With the 4 teachers per team, we can make it work. You know, it is a lot, and we try to pick up for our enrichment and help with, I do informational reading, and we try to pick up where we can and help those language teachers with that. With less than 4 teachers per team, it cannot happen. We cannot have teams. And I know that on a spreadsheet it looks one way, but in reality it's something totally different. And actually our team we were the first ones to go from 5 to 4. We did that. We had a teacher that had to resign and for medical reasons, and we volunteered to go ahead and just try it out. And it was a challenge. So but we can make it work, but we can't make it work with less than 4 per team. It cannot happen. Some other goals that we have to help improve scores is that we're going to start having our 8th grade students to mentor our 6th grade students in math and reading. Those students in the 8th grade that would have scored distinguished on either math or reading, and then pull from either your high novice or your high apprentice kids, and just pull them out during that enrichment time, read with them, do some math on IXL, which is the program that we use, and kind of get a relationship, kind of like a mentor within our school, but something that really to encourage them to read and to get involved or ask us student questions that maybe they wouldn't ask out loud in class. Also, we're implementing a STAR reading program where everyone in the whole building will read for 15 minutes at the beginning of each morning. That's teachers, that's front office, that's administrators, that's anybody that is capable. The library will be closed at that time because there will not be a time for them to check out books. Everybody's reading. And that's something that we have done in years past, and the kids will say, can we please, I'm almost finished with this chapter, or, you know, and it just really gets them involved with the reading. That's good. So those are some things we're looking at. I won't read all this to you. Another one that I'm gonna skip to that page that says leadership opportunities, about the middle of the page there. Our GT leadership, a lot of our GT leadership students are on the STAR news program that's done by SCLP, and we are also, I talked to Ms. Brown, and we are working out the details, but we're going to start where those leadership students will take questions on school safety from the students in the building, and then we will go out and find the answers. The students will find the answers either from a teacher, administrator, a police officer, whoever they need to, Mr. Davis, however they need to find the answer. And then each week on our school news program, we'll have a segment for school safety, and we'll address those questions or issues and concerns that they have. Also, we have beta ambassadors that go to each of the rooms, and they are 7th and 8th graders that make beta announcements because our beta program is so successful, and we want all the kids to have an opportunity to do that. Sixth grade students aren't ambassadors because it takes till about Christmas to get them all signed up and kind of their feel for how our school runs. So that's just open for 7th and 8th grade students. Like I said, a lot of our leadership comes from STLP, and we're really excited. We've started our communication outreach has been great. We have a Facebook page now. We have a Twitter account that we got that idea from another school that said that that's really how their parents know what's going on is through their Twitter account. And we have a Remind, which is a text message, or school-wide. We have a beta Remind, and then each team in our building has their own team Remind. So we have lots of opportunities there. We update our webpage every day, every morning. We make sure we try to make sure that's up to date. And the STLP, the news program, Facebook, all of that, social media, as well as our webpage is student driven. They do it all. I try to go through and look and make sure that something's not misspelled or we're getting everything we need, but I also am encouraging them to take that lead, and they've taught me a lot. They really have. We do Student of the Month. We do Student of the Month, and they're recognized at our assemblies that we have. The handout that I gave you, that's a STAR card. We started that last year, and you can see there the criteria that a student has to meet to receive that card. They get into a ball game free. They can get donut breakfast. We have patio lunch where they can go out and eat lunch on the patio when it's pretty outside. They love that one.
If I remember right, you loved that one too.
I love that one too. We still do.
Love that.
Yeah. So yes. So no, we're still out there. We still try not to come in sometimes when Mr. Devine opens the door. But so we have lots and lots of things. We also give like smaller prizes like pop sockets or and then things that are 5 points on a test or those types of certificates as well. So that's another thing that we've been implementing. We also recognize those students MAP score, not only for the top 5 highest MAP scores, but also the most improved. So we recognize those students who really put forth that effort and show great gains.
Question on your leadership opportunities. Kentucky Youth Assembly, do you have a Young Republicans group?
No, this year.
Kentucky Youth Assembly.
Is that what KYA stands for?
Yes.
Do they have a Young Republicans or a Young Independent?
Mr. Chappell took a group last year, and this year, I don't know if it was enough interest that that he did not take a group. But to answer your question,
There's not.
I don't know, not to my knowledge. Like I said, Mr. Chappell took that on and took a group, and that's about all we went with that.
And then we also use the one call to get that out. The best communication opportunity for our school has been Facebook. Parents will ask questions and we'll answer, or even a teacher will answer through their own account, and it's just been a great tool to get it out that this is what's going on. And because middle school kids, it's not cool to go home and give your mom the paper or even take the paper home sometimes. So it's really been good, and we've really gotten a lot of community involvement. I think we have over, how many hours, Amy? 400?
Over 400.
400 volunteer hours from people in the community that's came in. So that's really an accomplishment, especially just in the last few years for our school alone.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and Ms. Harris is the one I've been bragging on with the STLP and the webpage at the board meetings and things like that. So that's Ms. Harris. So I have been bragging on you during board meetings.
Ta-da.
Right.
There we go. Good.
She's a good teacher.
Not both bills have.
Seventh
You still
grade,
got one.
seventh grade and final.
David
One more
does
to go,
too.
right?
One more to go.
Yeah, right, yeah.
One thing that Mr. Davis has really been stressing, and I know you as board members, is soft skills. I just want to kind of throw that in and kind of how we're addressing that. Ms. Wilson in the computer class, she will go over resumes. The students will do their resumes, and then she'll ask them to sign up for an interview. And then I'll go in and I'll interview them, and I'll give them similar questions of what I would interview a staff member. And then I give them feedback, on that, because, we're living in an age now where, they're texting and, they have problems with eye contact and, and things like that. And, and we're really trying to push, for our work ready grants for soft skills. So I'll go in and they'll sign up, and, some of them will do very well, and, some of them, will sign up anyway, and, and then I'll give them, good feedback, and, and I'll even make them enter the room, we'll do the handshake, and we'll go through everything, and then I'll just kind of go over with them kind of, here's some questions you're always going to get, and it's going to start out this way, and it's going to end this way, and so it's been very successful, and it's kind of like the last 2 weeks of her classes usually ends with resume, and then I'll come in and do the interviews. So that's what we've been working on.
That's great. Exciting to see you starting that. And
So we'll pull a table in the center of the room and do all that. So, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy doing that. And I like the fact that the kids want to do it. I mean, they will sign up, and they're like, "Oh, Mr. Rager's coming? Yeah, I want him to interview me." So I was actually surprised with some of the kids that actually wanted to do it. So like I said, it's worked out really well for us.
I have school visits. I'm Amy Luttrell, and I teach Galaxy Language Arts, 7th grade. I'm on the same team with Ms. Harris. I'm also the head beta sponsor, so I've seen you all off and on when we've had an opportunity to bring our kids over, so I'm happy to be here with you all tonight. School visit wise, back on the front page, we had that opportunity that talked just a little bit about some things that we needed to work toward to maybe try to help with our scores state-wise as well as here in our building. And so I had the good fortune of being able to go to Drake's Creek in Bowling Green, and I made the visit in November toward the end of the month. Myself, Ms. Markwell, Mr. Rager, along with Rebecca Combs, 8th grade social studies, Laura Franklin, 8th grade math, myself and Jessica Cotton, 7th grade math. And it was probably one of the more beneficial visits. This is not like my first year to teach. This is actually my 28th year to teach, so I've been doing this for a little while. And what I have continued to learn is I have to continue to learn with the kids. And even though I feel like I know content and I know what I'm doing, you have to find new ways to do things because kids are constantly changing, and you've got to change some things up as well. So it was really nice to go into a building whose, I guess you'd say their makeup is a lot like our own. They are in teams as well. Their scores were very similar once upon a time to where ours are at this point, and they have drastically continued to improve. And so we want to see, okay, what are they doing? Because there's not like a secret, that's for sure, but there's a recipe when you start putting everything together to try to figure out what's making this work. I went into the language arts classrooms. Okay, that was where my calling was. And then I went into some of the math classrooms as well with Ms. Cotton, just so we could kind of see what they're doing. The overall feeling in the building was one of a very welcoming facility, very professional. There was no if, and, or but about it. The people dress professionally, they conduct themselves professionally. The students there, their manners, they weren't hopping up and around. And when you were in the hall, there was teaching that was going on. There was conversation being had. There wasn't like lots of traffic and just kind of like harem scarum. There was an organization that I personally enjoy just because that's my structure. That's how I am. I'm every I's dotted, T's crossed. Mr. Davis knows that. Mr. Rager knows that. That's just my personality. And I thought, okay, is this just for show, knowing that we're coming in, or is this really how this place is? And I actually have my ex-sister-in-law who's in that building. And so I reached out to her and I said, okay, for real, is this how this is, like day in, day out? I said, because I was very impressed with like the structure of the building, the expectations, because expectations are on the board. This is what I expect today. This is what we wish to accomplish. This is what we will accomplish, and we're going to do it together. And it's over and over and over from room to room to room. And she said, it's day in and day out. She said, it starts the day they walk in this building, the expectations are set, and this is where you're going to be. And they continue to work and strive to reach these expectations and these really high goals. There's a lot of statistics and information that's on there, but some things that I was able to take away. I like this no excuse. Okay, there's a no excuse policy that's in their building. There's no excuse for you not to have something. And so they have time set aside, just like how we have an enrichment period, first period. If kids do not have that work, let's say for that day, that next morning, whatever they didn't have like accomplished or completed, that's their first period. And so they are getting that caught up and they're getting that done. If someone did not do well the day before on an activity, that's when that's being done that first period. Because if you didn't get it yesterday, you're not suddenly going to be ready to move on to the next thing. So that's sort of like a remediation time. And each one of those teachers pick up whatever their core area was. So they truly are working together. They are in teams, but the difference between their middle school and our middle school is the fact that we have team planning. Don't get me wrong, I love having team planning with these ladies, because these ladies and I plan everything together, and we're talking about the same kids, but their subject area, their content area plan together. So all of their language arts people are planning at the same time. All of their math people are planning at the same time. And as much as it hurts for me to have to say it, I think that's part of the key to it, is that because of this planning, they are able to sit down and truly figure out what is happening in 6th grade, what needs to happen in 7th grade, what needs to happen in 8th grade.
In the same subject?
Yes, ma'am.
Rather than the pod of the age group. So it's the whole subject.
And you can still teach in teams, like, because they do, and therefore their discipline is handled among their team. Their field trips are handled among their team. Their rewards are still handled among their teams. And they've got like really cool little names to go along because they're the Gators. And so they have like Gator Bucks. They have what's called a Swamp Time. I mean, they've got some really cool things, which is stuff that we've adapted as well. But I think not just in your PLCs, which we have those, like this one was Language Arts PLC, and we do that once a month. But if you're able to truly connect with the people that are doing the same thing that you're doing, just maybe the level below you or level above you, I think there's some consistency. Like I said, it's taken me maybe 28 years to get to this, to see, I think there's something to that. And I don't know logistically, like scheduling, because that's not what I do. I don't do scheduling. But it does make a difference, because you got to really look this all out and think that through, because boy, that really changes when you're working on a schedule.
Do you think it could be done at North Middle? If you like it and you're bringing the message back?
It could be done. And they did send a schedule with us to take a look at.
So you can see if it fits.
I know there's a lot of logistics that work with that. But I don't know, Ms. LaBelle, I don't know if maybe like how we do our PLCs, I don't know if maybe one morning out of the month is enough for people to really know what's going on with each other. So there could be something to it. So that was like my big takeaway when we came. I thought, there's got to be something to this here. But their culture and their building, they work not just with the kids in building like this great rapport and this great relationship, but like among their faculty and staff, there's a lot of respect that's there, and they know each other's strong suits. They know what people do well. And I think that's nice to know as well, because if I need some help with technology, okay, she's my STLP person right now. Thank God she's on my team. But that worked really well because she helped with beta this year, getting our technology together. And we placed 3rd in the state. Okay, and before, not that we weren't doing a great job, but when you got somebody that's able to have a class that says, yeah, I'll help you with that, we'll take that on. You're like, oh, and they called our name, oh my gosh, you know, it's even better. So I think there's a lot to that. And I don't know exactly. And here's another one. Here you go again. They have block scheduling. Okay, Mr. Davis was with us back in the day when we had block scheduling when it came to language arts. And they have block scheduling for their language arts. which means it's like a 90-minute period. And so you've got you got your reading, your writing, your spelling, and your English. And that's happening over like 2 class periods. So that one teacher has them for 90 minutes. Well, right now, since I'm language arts, I do all that in about 50 minutes. And so that being said, that's a lot that gets done in that period of time.
In the 50 minutes.
In 50
versus-
minutes compared to 90 minutes. And so I'm not going to say, well, this isn't getting covered, but it is, but maybe not as thickly as I'd like to see it thoroughly.
Yeah.
So
Just because everybody learns differently.
they do.
I mean,
They just really do. We all do. So.
Which Straits Creek was grade 7 and 8, which makes a little bit of a difference on schedule.
Oh, and that
too.
school is just
Yeah.
the 2 grades?
Yeah, it was just the 2 grades.
Yeah.
But I selected it because they have similar staff numbers, similar student numbers, and they made, their gap group score was phenomenal.
But they've always been 7th and 8th. They
Yes.
didn't make changes.
Right. No.
Okay.
No, and they have a refugee outreach center in Bowling Green, and they had 60, plus ESL students. And they weren't Hispanic, they were,
Oh my gosh.
they were from all over the place. Bosnia, Africa,
Wonderful.
I was just, amazed by that. So anyway, I just wanted
30 languages.
I just wanted to interject that.
Yeah.
And a couple takeaways that when I spent most of the day with the principal, he told me, he said, if you take away 3 things from today, take away 1, the Google Classroom. And I talked to Mr. Davis about this. They are totally paperless with the staff on the Google Classroom. He said, we post our absentees to this. We do the calendar, newsletter, everything is through the Google Classroom. He said, I really don't send any kind of emails. It's just all on this Google Classroom that the teachers can access. And it's like interactive and up to date and things like that. And he told me that his best communication tool was Twitter. And he said, do you have Twitter? I said, no, I don't tweet, whatever you call it. I don't. But I need to. And he said, if you do a communication tool rather than, Facebook or whatever, he said, I think that's what works best for me. And then he went on to say that his test score increased, that they did something called a draft.
Yes, the draft pick.
And he said that they did draft picks, and that he said after they did that, they saw about a 31% increase in their scores. Little did I know, about 3 or 4 weeks before we went, we did that.
We'd already picked our
We had already picked our draft
mentor.
to mentor kids. So we selected out of the GAP group 5 students that we were going to mentor throughout the year.
Is that like the silent mentoring thing where they don't?
Yes.
They don't know,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
we're like hands,
No, they don't
you're
know.
there and you're checking in with them.
Every day, touch
Never
base with them.
reassurance
That's
and,
awesome.
Like what's happening, and they do that, and they said they saw this huge increase in scores because they realized maybe at home's not happening, but here there's somebody that cares that's expecting some things out of me. So we felt really good. As soon as we got back in the vehicle and we were pulling away, we're like, we are doing some of these things. We've started, we're trying to do some things a little differently to see if it's going to tweak and see if it makes a difference.
Did you see Google Classroom and how they use it? And did you like it?
We did.
Did you think it was good?
It's neat.
Even though they use Twitter, is there other communication opportunities within Google Classroom?
Well, that's,
you know what I'm
Yes.
saying? Like
Yes.
just to
Yes,
keep
sir.
the class together on the same page, so to speak. So
Right.
rather than a tweet. So
Right, and then Ms. Harris, you've inquired about the Google
that. Yes, I was
Classroom.
gonna say
And
that.
when I came back, I was talking about the Google Classroom, and of course, Ms. Technology, she jumps on board, and Ms. Ray?
Miss Ray,
Ray.
she set it up at a school that she was previous to North Middle, and so we're working on trying to get a little bit going so that we'll be ready as close as we can for next year. So we don't want to put it out there until we're familiar enough to answer some questions about it. But we are going to try to implement that.
yeah.
All right, I know we're kind of
No, it's
going over
good.
on our time. But school culture, I looked at the tele-survey results. I'm sure that you all have looked at them as well. A few things that I picked out as far as improvement, and then there's some, you can see some of the activities that I'm trying to address that with. One was overall my school is a good place to work and learn. I need to improve there. The school does a good job of encouraging parent and guardian involvement. We're working toward that, and I'm trying to use the telesurvey results to make improvements. And Ms. Robin will go over a few of the activities that we have doing, and some of them are ongoing.
All right. My name is Robin Oldham, and I'm the parent representative for the middle school. I'm a mom of a 6th grader, so this was all new to me, leaving the elementary stage. So, but it's been nice to be a part of the site base to get my feel of just all the communication and going on. And first, I'm not going to read all these out to you, but one of the big ones is a student and staff shout outs that happens during assemblies. And so that just gives that culture, it just gives them that boost already when they hear their name or something that they've been caught doing in a good way, to hear their name and just give a big shout out to reward them for that. Also, talking about our social media and stuff, it's publicly announced and recognized for teachers, their accomplishments. That's on the website, and during the assemblies that time, to just give that shout out and the accomplishments and recognize the teachers for what they do as well, because it's that culture, just building that morale between our educators is just going to lift that up. Also, in here, what morale cannot be better than food? There's several on there. Potlucks, they have those, I believe like once a month to try to get potlucks going on. The staff Christmas party was catered just to bring that togetherness within our, the teachers and the staff there. And, also, I wanted to tell you that last night, this was something that I was a part of, which I loved. We had a mother-daughter paint party. And so it was fabulous because I was able to bond with my daughter. And so it was just nice. Miss Kentucky was there to just even have that motivational speaking to the young girls and the moms, because I want to be there for my daughter, and just to let her hear that from someone else. It was just we loved that. There was 50 pairs of us, moms, just the girls, and it was a success. And I feel like that was just something that brought North Middle together, seeing that mom-daughter relationship form. And we have another one coming up, can't leave the guys out. The father-son, that's not happened yet, but in the same form, that's going to be on Thursday. And Master Jim Johnson, he's going to be coming, and he does the Taekwondo.
You don't know how to dance?
So that's going to bring that bonding of the dads and sons together. So that's coming up. So we're hoping for a great success in that too.
We had some students that their moms couldn't attend for different reasons, and so some teachers came and went with them and did together. And I think the same with some of the guys. Some of our men.
I was invited by several, but we have a board meeting.
Yeah, that's what they done it on the.
Yeah, I know you mentioned it on purpose.
You didn't want to come and check your building out.
We can dismiss him after the superintendent.
That's right.
But even as a teacher, I was there as a mom last night. But as a teacher, and I saw kids today that was there last night at my table that I would have never recognized otherwise, and they were like, "I got my heart hung up on my door and I finished painting." And, so it really made just a little bit of extra special day for me as a teacher as well.
Is this the first year you've done that?
Yes.
Okay.
So hopefully we can continue on with that,
That's a great
even maybe
idea.
just not just,
Yes.
but something that's gonna make that connection between moms and daughters and dads and sons, or maybe it's a significant, somebody's very important in their life, a granddad, because we did have grandparents.
What am I gonna do? I have boys.
We might have to come up with
Mother,
something.
son.
Mother, son.
Anyway, they love you all anyway.
Yeah, can they have yours? Okay. I'll borrow somebody's daughter.
Yeah, you can take David.
Hi, I'm Brad Devine, I'm assistant principal. I just want to touch on some high points about school safety. Definitely a topic of discussion, concern. I always want to talk about school safety with our kids and staff. Some things we've already been doing recently here is, in past, we've kind of kept the gym lobby doors, the bus doors open, and the front doors open for kids to come in. We revised our duty schedule to make sure that those doors stay locked now, so nobody can get in without, somebody pushing the door, letting them come in. So we revised the duty schedule, took one person off the gym, and put somebody in the back and in the front. So the goal in mind there is to make sure all outside doors are locked from the start of school to the end of school. Along with that, we've had key swipes added at the 7th, 8th grade hallways, at the ends. We have 4 main entrances, front, back, 2 sides. We have key swipes now on all those with some Safe Schools money and maybe some help from you guys with that, so we're very appreciative of that. Very beneficial. I think the staff likes that. Less keys are probably better. If you lose a key swipe, I think Mr. Perkins or somebody can delete that and get a new one. So it kind of helps from my standpoint and Mr. Rager's and the office staff as far as keys concerned, kind of eliminate some of that stuff. So we are doing that, have done that as far as the key swipes. Classroom doors are to be locked. We try to monitor that on a daily basis. Even with our subs in the building, our office staff does a great job as issuing keys, make sure we get those keys back from those subs. We have sub plans for them about what to do in case of emergencies, so we're thinking about that as well. Mr. Davis has stressed this to the principals and assistant principals, which I think would be very beneficial, we need to be doing, but we want to practice lockdown drills at chaotic times such as breakfast, lunch, morning waiting area, and class change. Always a big fear of mine. In the mornings, a lot of our kids either go to the cafeteria or in the gym. Pretty much all of our student body is in the gym in the morning before we dismiss, do announcements. So if something was to occur or whatever, what would we do and stuff like that. So we're looking at maybe getting some of those doors going in the gym. We have 2 sets of wooden doors that do not lock at the moment, but we're looking at maybe the possibility of doing that in case something was to happen. We mentioned fire drills during the lunch and stuff like that, so we're going to continue to look at that, and it is a very good point that Mr. Davis brought to the principals and assistant principals, and we need to be doing that because you never know, what's going to happen in daily school. You see there the goal is to have no unlocked doors anytime. We try to stress that. We go by our custodians, check doors daily. Staff who has classrooms at the end of the hallways, should be checking doors, checking restrooms, just kind of keep the school safe as possible. We do have a new camera system, very proud of, that Mr. Rager purchased, I believe. It's really nice. We have a lot of cameras now, high quality cameras, zoom in and out, surrounding the building. You can see outside the building, so very happy with that. Looking to add some more cameras down the road. But we have used that a lot, just with kids being where they're supposed to be, in the hallways, restrooms, in the gym, just for everything, for safety purposes for our school. So that's been an added resource as well. We've added the ALC kids. They eat lunch and breakfast at our school. Mr. Rager, this is his suggestion, it was a good one, I think. They used to come in our hallways where our kids can see them, come into class. So for safety purposes, I think Mr. Rager's giving Mr. Watkins a key to go around the side of the building, just enter straight in the cafeteria. So they go in and get their stuff, their food, and they leave the same door. So I think that's very beneficial as well. Ms. Harris has mentioned the GT leadership, kids and what they're doing. That's a great suggestion because, student input is always something we look, for as far as what's going on in our school. Kids know our school the best. They know what's going on. So we want to have that communication with them. And that information will get back to me and staff and Mr. Rager, and we will dissect that information. They're going to ask those questions on the news, which Ms. Harris and Ms. Brown. Ms. Harris does a great job with the school news. Glad she's taking that on. Lastly there, Mr. Rager talked to individual classes about school safety and bullying. That's been taking place. Student answered questions anonymously on paper. They did not put their names on it. We did ask for the grade. Such questions were, do you feel safe at school? Why or why not? They put input on that. What can we do to make the school safer? Is there any adults in the building you feel safe to talk to if you have a problem? Mr. Rager went into bullying, definition of bullying as far as the state's concerned. And if they feel like the person in the building is considered a bully, they put that name down. That's something Mr. Davis kind of encouraged us to do. Definitely a good tactic there, and we've been in the process of doing that. We're going to look at the information and see how many names we got, if we got any names, and start having those conversations because we want kids saying the right things, each one doing the right things. So that's something we're definitely going to look at. Concerns. I know some of you guys pick up your kids in the afternoon and drop them off in the morning. We've had some congestion concerns, definitely. Car riders in the front, buses in the back. We have a long line of car riders in the afternoon. Some of them line up on 62, which is definitely a safety concern. Police has actually come before and talked to us about it. But we're looking at making some changes. We thought about doing it maybe in December during Christmas, but decided not to do that. It's something we're definitely going to look at as far as the summer is concerned, about maybe the buses unloading and loading in the front morning and afternoon, and car riders in the back, because we could use, as long as it's done by then, by the time we get done, we can use that whole long driveway there by Longest. So
that'll work, Brad. That will work.
Yeah, that's what
that would be one line versus two. We have the two lines. It's always kind of a safety concern. We haven't had any accidents yet, knock on wood, but we're going to look at maybe doing one big long line. It might slow up, but it'll be, in safety, it'll be good. So that's some things we're doing safety-wise. Again, it's always a topic of discussion. And we're always looking for improvement in those areas. But we want to make sure our kids feel safe, our staff feel safe, and we'll continue to do those things.
Yeah, and on the back, we had a safe school assessment done in March of 2017. These were just some recommendations by the Kentucky Center for School Safety and about our bleachers being so the high on the steps. They recommended that we put in like a half-step walkway with the rail. And then another concern they had was the front entrance of moving those, and Mr. Davis and I discussed this just the other day, of moving those second set of doors back so that you could direct the traffic into the office. And that's what the second recommendation is. And the third one on there, on the connecting hall from Longest, that I've talked about before, where they have a push bar in Longest. So if you're in Longest, you can go into North Middle, but North Middle can't get into Longest. So that's the three recommendations that was made during Kentucky Center for School Safety Assessment we had. And I just want to share that with you all.
Can they just make it where it's card? On either side? I mean, maybe it's different in the event of emergency.
Well, and it's the old doors.
Yeah.
It's the old push bar doors. So I don't know. Like I said, that's just something that we need to look at. Those are just three concerns that we have. Like I said, we've done all the easy fixes right now because when we first started there, there was 4 sets of doors unlocked in the morning at the end of 7th grade hall, 8th grade hall, front doors, and the gym lobby doors. Now we have no doors unlocked.
The cars are, like you said, that's the way to go. Yeah. You're right. We went through West the other day.
But in an emergency, between either the elementary school or the middle school, you got to be able to pass through.
Right, we can't, they can.
Right.
I mean, if, at that point.
You just need
Outside
to
primarily.
cut the hallway out.
Right.
Cut the hallway out, right?
Well, like I
Make
said,
just
or
double doors?
we put in some doors that, like you said, you can control better access on that.
Yep.
Well, I apologize, I think we went
No, it's
over our
good.
time.
Good things.
I do apologize, I have to apologize to Donna, I'm sure, but whoever's behind us, but,
Thank you, site-based members for thankless work.
Ready.
We'll go ahead and call it to order. Board members and Superintendent Davis, in front of you have a folder with two stapled handouts. The one handout that is white has just some various talking points that myself and other council members will discuss throughout tonight. And then the one with the color instrument with it is some math data. I know that is a very large concern, not only for our school, but I know with you all as well. And so we want to make sure that we communicate to you all how many great things are happening within our math department with the kids along with that. So with that said, we'll go ahead and get started with a few talking points. I know that you all can read, so but I do want to start with the beginning with the safety things in general that we need. And a lot of that is already in discussion between Mr. Perkins and Ms. Browning and I. We were able to meet last week, as well as with Mr. Wells and Mr. Fleming to walk through at West Campus, and then continue on with our conversations at East Campus about how to address some of these safety needs. And Mr. Davis and I have been in great conversations about it as well. Another thing, though, that I do want to point out to you as far as safety that I did not share as a talking point, I just wanted to share it with you verbally, is that I was able to hold thus far conversations with our freshman class, and then turn around and hold the same conversation with our sophomore class about the importance in safety, what measures we're taking in general to make sure that they are safe, and that they know that our job and our first and foremost job is to make sure they do feel safe, that they are loved, that they are fed, and that they are clothed. The freshmen and sophomores did a phenomenal job, asked some really great questions and some challenging questions, and have continued to have some of those conversations with myself, counselors and administrators since then, as well as the teachers. Tomorrow, Detective Boyd Ray is coming in to speak to our juniors, and then turn around and speak with our seniors. He and I will tag team all again, have that safety conversation with those groups. But he is particularly going to speak to our kiddos about the social media. Have a very real conversation with our juniors and seniors about social media and what they post and how dangerous that is. And he is very, very well versed with a lot of that because of his expertise and what he deals with. So I'm looking forward to that opportunity. The cultural piece, I'm going to let my parents talk more about that. This is Christina Gross is our parent representative, as well as Josh Calso. You've seen him earlier with Greenville, so I'll turn it over to my parents.
I guess one of the things I'd like to say at the beginning of our council time together in the summer, we talked about making more of a positive impact, improving our culture as a council, things that we could do and what Ms. Thumbs could do to continue to work with staff, because I think we all recognize that a positive environment, a positive culture really is the foundation of maintaining relationships and building continued relationships between the students and the staff and the parents, et cetera, as whole as the school and the community. So, we have a short list. That list was really born of conversations that we've had at every site-based meeting somewhere, touched along the way when this topic would come up. But number one being that student-staff relationship and looking at more administration presence in the classroom. And so at both campuses, administrators have made an effort to slide into the back of the classroom, sometimes unnoticed, sometimes noticed on purpose, just to kind of then be there, be present, and be seen with the students. We also wanted to continue ways to encourage the students and the parents as well to take advantage of all ways that information can be accessible. Not just with Infinite Campus, though that is the first and probably foremost most wonderful tool that, you know, as a board you offer across the schools. But also through Remind, a lot of the teachers have been encouraged to open up that two-way communication, not just sending the messages out one way, but for parents to be able to message back. And a lot of teachers have been as good as to go as far as to say, here are windows, here are time slots that you can communicate with me, so parents will know the availability of teachers. Obviously, we have the emails and the phone calls and things like that, but you know, looking for the use of technology to continue to communicate with, again, our students and then our parents. That student-teacher relationship often is that foundation for a parent-teacher and parent-school relationship sometimes. Looking at the school website, they've made a lot of improvements. We want to continue to improve upon the school website, putting out information on policies and ways that they can utilize the website to continue to grow as a parent and a student. We also had the implementation of Rewards Day this year. That has been a big one. The students have really become invested in that. You know, earning the right to participate in Rewards Day has really motivated the students. I see it amongst my own students, amongst their friends, and we see it in the school that these students are really looking for their name to appear on that board to say, I get to participate in Rewards Day, which also then translates over to the shout out board that the schools have, whether that's staff to staff, staff to student, looking at just positive messages to improve that culture. Certainly, I mean, there are ways to improve, and again, that's been an ongoing conversation in this council. So we kind of have listed some areas of improvement. We also want the teachers to continue to make outreach, but we've been really almost pretty frequently talking about encouraging our teachers to make a positive outreach to a parent before something does happen and they have to make that negative outreach. Seeing that practiced more with the teachers, so that way we have that foundation. And again, that will come back and speak to our positive culture in our school. You can see we talked about having improved communications of what our policies are, and Mr. McElwain actually shared something really good last week, was to also explain sometimes why we can't do something. Parents also, you know, that not just to hear no, but now to communicate something why something can't be shared, we think would be very beneficial. So you can see our list, and we always have room to grow, but we want to continue to see our shift at the high school campuses. Mr. Calso, I know Mr. Calso has given us a lot of feedback as well. I want to give him the opportunity to add anything.
Well, I mean, we obviously know that the high school is a different beast than an elementary school, so a family night or a parent night involvement at the high school looks completely different than what it looks like at an elementary school. So we have had a lot of discussion on how do we have those nights, how do we draw parents in to get them vested into our school. We know it's a little easier at an elementary school, you know, Greenville, the parents there live in Greenville. And the parents that go to South, you know, they live there. So sometimes with two different campuses and them not necessarily being close to home, we have to get parents invested in these students. One thing that comes to my mind is I believe it was this year or last year, they had a night where you could come pick up your student's report card, and all the teachers were at West, and you had the opportunity to go around and talk to those teachers and have those conversations, good and bad, and just, you know, having showcases, having the band performing, or having them perform a skit of the upcoming play, and just trying to get, you know, feed them, get them to get really invested in what we're doing at the high school. And I think that's obviously been an area of weakness in the past, and so we really have been an ongoing conversation of how do we get parents truly invested in our high school. And you know, you see the front office at East is welcoming. We understand that the conversation and the feeling or the mood of the school takes place the minute a parent walks in the door. And so that secretary or those people in there are so crucial to setting that tone, positive or negative. And a couple years back, I was privileged enough to sit on a committee where it was a welcoming committee with Miss Penny Roberts and a few others. And we got a lot of feedback from parents, and they said, when they would go into a school and that there was very standoffish right from the beginning, that just set the tone horrible. So Ms. Bumps has been, and all the staff there has been really mindful of that. And so it's nice to walk in and feel welcome, feel like you are, your concerns are going to be listened to, and you're going to get pointed to the right direction without any, the teachers there. So we just know that we always have those conversations. It seems like every site-based meeting. How are we going to get parents in? Because that's what's going to propel us to the next level as a high school, we believe. And we have to get the community invested. So we're always open to suggestions. I think that we've come up with some pretty creative ones so far, but hopefully we'll keep seeing the trend. I think as the nights have become more common, I think that we've seen a little bit more participation. So hopefully over time that'll continue.
I say get creative. You got football games, you got basketball games,
Sure.
you've got all these opportunities where people in the community come.
Yeah.
And even from other counties. I mean, that seems like it would just be a really good way to kind of tag on to get student and parents together to your schools. I just, know not all the schools have those opportunities. Sure. So I agree with the band and those types of activities, but, there's many ball games that are taking place. There should
we
be.
do some neat things like Meet the Mustangs, and I know Hayes does some stuff with the football team. So we are trying to pair those things up with things that we know our community is invested in. They're invested in football, they're invested in the basketball teams, lady and boys. Being a coach myself, really trying to utilize those moments. So we are trying, and I think it's going to continue.
I was even going to say, you this year and other sports have, teacher night where the students get to, the athletes get to pick an influential teacher and they get to write something about them, and, you get to be honored. Yeah. And, as a teacher who was chosen, I mean, that's the greatest thing ever. And it was also, the opportunity that I got to take my own child, to a game and, meet parents and say hi to parents. And, it was a good positive experience for, as a teacher and as an honoree.
That's been a big hit.
Yes, that is
Is that monthly? Is that monthly or just one time?
At sports.
Brad does it for baseball.
Oh, so it's just
you have
individual
senior,
sports.
so how you have senior night where
Sure.
you honor your seniors. Well, they also have teacher night.
Okay.
And even last night, we took our pink out night to a whole new level. Miss Morrison, we kept trying to figure out, we know we've had many staff members in the past that have, unfortunately have had cancer and unfortunately on the other part have beaten those odds. But the flip side is because it's pink out about, breast cancer. So we were able to, bring back Miss Sandra Key, a retiree from the high school, and she was very honored to be able to deliver the game ball to the officials last night at the pink out. So we were able to take our pink out that we've always had at our other events as well. We have them about every sporting event, but to a whole new level last night. And by far, that was probably one of our bigger things that we were able to do, and look forward to continue to do those, not knocking that up another notch at our future pink outs and things of that nature. So very excited about that.
The reward day, does that involve duct tape and pie?
This last time, the first time we was a pie in the face. This last time was duct tape to the wall. There's a bit of discussion on whether or not they're really going to do this third 9 weeks. I think Mr. Phipps is in for it more so than maybe Mr. Carver, but I think there's a little bit of dressing, putting on makeup. So I'm not sure how that's going to play out just yet. But yes, the kids are and what we have
Kids
found,
love that, don't they?
They do, and you know what? Kids will do anything for a T-shirt, and so we, because they're able to get a T-shirt out of it, and we're very fortunate between council funds as well as one of our local banks donated, or we applied for a grant. I should say donate. We applied for, I think it was like $250 to help with that, and so the kids get that pizza. That we're able to purchase pizza and allow them for that opportunity too. So it's really been fun. And at the end of the day, even if they think they're too cool to do the dodgeball and to play things, they just want time to socialize is what we found. And so, and we set up the guidelines on, okay,
this is your time you wanted, and that even includes them to use that cell phone during that time, because that is a reward basis, and we don't normally do that. But we've also said if you use it responsibly, then we'll continue to allow that as one of your rewards. So knock on wood, as I like to do, it's been one of our better successes this year, and we want to continue to improve on that. So as not just as this year goes on, but get feedback from the kids about what else we should do.
How many are able to participate typically?
Well, we were able to add, 60 more kids this last time, our freshmen and sophomores, not as many with our juniors and seniors, and that's the lack of motivation that we continue to miss some way, and that's even one of our bullets. But overall, around 6 something, so almost half of our population, so we're very pleased by grades 9 through 12.
Because it's pretty strict requirement, I remember you talking about.
It is.
It's not,
That's new, right? That's new this year.
Very much
Attendance and behavior, grades, and attendance.
Yes. And it is very much new. And the thing about it is that the kids are able to see that, okay, maybe I didn't get to experience first 9 weeks, but I've got a shot to get to do it again, to qualify for it second 9 weeks. I've got a shot to qualify for it third 9 weeks. So at the end, if you're that group of kids who was able to participate all 4 9 weeks, there's that big reward for you. But even up to the last 9 weeks, every child still has the capability of being able to participate in that. So very excited about that and what possibilities we'll have with it.
And they get angry when they don't
Yes.
get that goal. They're disappointed, and that really motivates them.
It's probably made them competitive.
And I will say Mr. Carver and Mr. Phipps have really taken this and run with it. Most of the time it's just come to me and ask for money, and I normally say yes. So, but they put the names up on the trophy case well before time, and the kids began to check it, especially more so on the day or two, a day before or even the day of why is my name not up there? And that within itself has created a whole new dynamic in that the kids are talking to the administrators more. It's not just about what have I done wrong when you come visit an administrator. And we've been trying to really change that whole stigma. But it's been able to allow us another opportunity to build that relationship with kiddos to say, yeah, okay, so you missed it by this one, so what can we do next time? And even for some, what's even better is that it's a fluke in a report, and they were able to catch it. And so again, it's making them ownership, making them accountable on what that attendance, their discipline, and grades have been too. So very pleased with that. And and again, as I said, our juniors and seniors, you'll even see that as an area of improvement with Rewards Day. It is an addition, and between the work of the work of Mr. Freeman, I mean, he's, as I said on here, and I mean, he's phenomenal going to those homes and visiting with the kids and trying to get them to come to school, but we still just miss some piece of motivation, and that to the point that the council even has on their agenda this month of going back to and revisiting the prom and participation in prom and graduation activities, that we're going to even lower that attendance requirement even more, and that hopefully that will be their motivation piece. And it's not that we want to keep any kids, especially graduation, they work hard to participate. They have to know, in connection with the work ethic seal, that they have to come to school, they have to go to work, and so we're going to have to find ways to make them understand that better, and no other way to say it.
Are you getting support from Mr. Freeman about that attendance?
Absolutely.
I mean, because it's paramount.
Absolutely.
If they're not here, they're not learning, and achievement is going to reflect that. So the thoughts are, what else can be done?
And,
Do we know?
And that's where we're at. And like I'll say it again, Mr. Freeman is, whether it be him going to the home visits, him and Officer Allen doing the home visits. I know I've even gone with Mr. Freeman on a couple myself. Some of the other administrators have too. And sometimes it's just knocking on the door, and still no one coming to the house and answering it, and then making a surprise visit later. And I mean, it is a concerted effort. And then when the kid shows up, it's kind of that, hey, they're here. He comes over and sits down and talks to them. You know, if we can't get the parents in, it's still an opportunity for him to sit down and talk to the kids other than just us. And it's that whole involvement piece from top down to really get the kids in there. So we will continue to work on that. And, you know, every month on our agenda when we talk about student achievement, number one is attendance. And as you just said, Ms. Lavelle, if they're not coming, it affects the academic piece too, and that's the very first words out of when we begin to talk about that. And the other piece on Rewards Day, and I'll wrap up with that by saying is that we have, if you come into either campus, you'll see a large chart with all the grades and every month's attendance for each of the grades. And for the first time, it wasn't by a lot, it was by 0.03 of a point, but the juniors beat the freshmen and sophomores, and the first semester have been freshmen and sophomores to be the overall winners, and I believe even our, I've slept since then, Ken's not here. Was it our sophomores who won it overall? Even though the freshmen had won it every 9 weeks, but the sophomores ended up winning it overall. By just a few too. So, but the conversation is, okay, freshmen and sophomores even today, juniors can beat you out. Let's see what you can do this next month. And then the vice versa with Mr. Phipps and talking to juniors and seniors of, all right, juniors, let's keep this on our side of the world. So it's been a good little competitive piece too. We'd like to go ahead and move on to the academic focus. And again, you have the scores there in front of you between the 16-17 versus the 15-16 school year. That's what those scores reflect. But along with the academic piece, I also want us to talk about programming piece too. So with that said, you want to go programming first, and I'll let Laurie go math? Okay.
One of the things that we're still working towards is full implementation of our TechLink. It was built that was when we were going through our financial crisis, and for various reasons we weren't able to fill all the space in there with what it was designed for. I mean, we're used to the space, but we've got 2 classrooms and 2 labs that aren't being used for what they're designed for. And we're trying to get, in cooperation with Massville Community College, AIT, AIM, Advanced Industrial Technology and Manufacturing program. I've worked with MCC on the hydroponics greenhouse grant, and I've also worked with them on this in conjunction with Ms. Bumps. The end goal, if we can get it implemented, and it looks like if we do, it would be not this coming, but the following school year, what, 1920?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If it gets implemented, is to have equipment in that space and hopefully have a body there as a facilitator. This is what we talked about preliminarily. To facilitate learning, and there would be a distance learning through TV. And they would have a professor at Massville Community College leading, and you would have a facilitator there doing the hands-on. If you've ever taken an online or distance learning course, you know what I'm talking about. That type of situation, most of us have done that, right?
Currently.
Yeah.
Until 2020.
Yeah. And so that's what we're hoping to be able to accomplish. The type of students that would go into that would be a lot of your, quote, blue-collar kids that's got to have some type of skill training. They're not the four-year university type kid. They're not your 25, 30 ACT kid. But it's the kid that wants to work with their hands, that wants to get some type of a skilled education to get into a good paying career. And AIT and AIM is something that Logan Aluminum and other places like that are constantly looking for.
Jay, excuse me just a second, but we should know on that before long. Is that correct?
Before too long, and we have to remember too that the Martin Foundation is also helping along with that. We're working in conjunction with them. We're waiting to hear from the National Science Foundation because it was a grant written through Madisonville. And the reason why of the 1920 implementation is because we have found through the hydroponics experience is the best way to say it. We were supposed to have our hydroponics program underway, and it's in with the conjunction of our greenhouse. at the beginning of this year. And we're still trying to get the plumbing installed as we speak. And so that within itself has been a 2-year plus progress that we thought was not going to be that way. And it's no one's fault of on. It's just one of those grant kind of deals that you have to make sure that you follow their guidelines, put bids out, things of that nature, and then got to make sure that you can find the skilled workers to fill the bid guideline piece of it. So, but we'll have the hydroponics, next year, hopefully, knock on wood. And then, so as you said, Mr. Davis, we should know about the other for too long. As a matter of fact, I think we have a meeting next week with them to discuss that. So,
And our goal is to not only provide hands-on training and education there, but the kids through a pathway would leave with some dual credit. And when they graduate our high school, depending upon how it's structured, they may walk out there with a certificate and then go to Madisonville and finish up a 2-year program and possibly be done 1 year out of high school with a 2-year degree. A lot of that depends on how it's structured and whatnot, but that's the nutshell goal is give a kid basically a year advance head start over someone else that didn't have it and went to Madisonville for a 2-year program. This kid's out a year early. And it also gives a lot of kids, like I said, that probably, I got a bunch of them in class. Now, don't dream about college. So they're not your typical dual credit. Your typical dual credit kids in our school is 26, 28, 30 ACT. But this gives another demographic of students an opportunity to be that higher education learner and go out and make $20 to $40 an hour, depending upon who hires them.
and an industry certification, as well as a little flexibility on a certified position of who to hire. You know, when it comes to career tech ed programming, there are two facets of it. There's the ag, family consumer science, and the business, where you have to have a 4-year degree program. That's your training that you've went and completed at college. Versus the automotive, industrial maintenance, even our health science teachers, you have to have an X amount of years of experience in those areas, even without a college degree, before you're even considered to be interviewed. And even though they have to apply through Muhlenberg County Schools to even be considered, before myself and my interview committee can do that, we have to send those applicants to KDE, to the Career Tech Ed Division, and they have to say, yes, this person meets the minimum requirements, you may interview this person, or no, you can't do that because they don't meet those minimum
Are we
requirements.
part of Kentucky Technical? I thought that we were a separate. Our tech wing was separate from Kentucky Technical Education. I guess I don't know exactly the correct verbiage, but that our tech wing was not part of the state of Kentucky. We just kind of decided we would do our own.
So you're part right and you're part incorrect. So if I may, we are not an area technical tech college or tech school. Okay, and
we were though at one point, right?
That was well before me. So,
right, but we were at some point. We decided to change gears and not do that, right?
I assume so.
I think that is correct.
Okay.
It was
So it's
before the
area.
merge is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
And so we became a local controlled tech school. But even though we're local controlled, our district still receives tech funds based on 5 programs. And if at any time we drop below those 5 programs, then that affects our funding within that too. But even though we're local control, those programs, it doesn't matter if you're area tech or local control, those programs that you offer and those teachers that you have to have, they still have to have the minimum experience before you're even interviewed. And you do not even have to have any college experience with that.
Well, I think somebody just left there to go to Felix Martin. Is that right? And then I know that there's been turnover.
Yes.
So I don't know how. I want to get an idea of how dedicated we are to find someone to help fill those spots, so that there's, opportunities for those students.
Absolutely. So very dedicated. And again, it all goes to minimum requirements that are out of your hands as well as my hands. So we were very fortunate we had someone to fall in our lap and on this last position that was open for automotive that had the experience. And Mr. McElwain sat in on that particular interview and excited about where our automotive program is going, and what opportunities our kids are going to be able to experience. Matter of fact, even has already turned in his first few POs of what additional tools that he's going to need, so board members, prep yourself. As I've already talked to Mr. Davis about early on. But in order for them to get those hands-on experiences with the vehicles and things of that nature. And also, he's already planned a trip to Owensboro Community Technical Center, or OCTC is what we typically refer to it, and because they have the automotive program, whereas Madisonville Community College does not. So very dedicated in those programmings overall.
I'll interject something on this as well. From my experience of working alongside these guys and gals in Tech Wing that are in a different fishbowl, if you will, than I am. One of the reasons that we've had some turnover in our other programs is because most of these guys and gals can go out in their own industry and make more money than they can teaching in our school system. Now, there are pros and cons to both sides. A lot of them come to our school system because if they're a private contractor on welding, or if they're trying to run their own mechanic shop or something like that, they don't have insurance unless they take it themselves. So they have access to benefits, insurance, retirement through us. But at the same time, probably can make more money out on your own. And I think that's part of the reason why we've had so much turnover in a couple of our programs. I know one of the people that, since we've been in the Tech Wing, that was teaching in the program that left, said, I can make a whole lot more money on my own. And that was his statement.
Are we teaching welding and ag?
Yes.
So it's something separate in the tech?
We have, Ken Hughes teaches a full-on welding and machine industrial maintenance program.
At the tech, on the tech side?
I have welding incorporated in a couple of my courses, as does Mr. Benton at the East Campus. In our ag program, our welding component is more of a backyard, garage, do your own repair, maintenance, get a kid interested, give them some basic skills, and if they say, hey, I want to be this for a career, they have that opportunity to go to Mr. Hughes, who can get them certified in certain areas.
And they get an industry certificate, and like in the ag program, as of now, when you're in the ag program, you take the COSA test, which is Kentucky Occupational Skills Standards Assessment. And that is only recognized in Kentucky. However, again, the CTE department at KDE is developing, or in the works of developing industrial certificates for the ag program. One of the things that we've been able to implement alone that we hope to have an industrial certification is the small engine power, just the basics of taking care of your lawnmower, make sure it's winterized, things of that nature, tillers and things of that nature. And our kids, as spring will be right around the corner, and people will begin to bring in their mowers and things of that nature, and our kids will have that background area and begin to work on those for people. So it's very, very much hands-on.
What about the work seal? I know that Western Kentucky was recognized, and I think the board had voted maybe to do it, but it had never been implemented. Is that in place yet? Or?
Well, it was voted on last school year for the implementation of this year. So I will just use the guidelines that was communicated and through all the Western Kentucky schools. And my question is it a seal that we put on ourselves, or do I get the seal from somewhere else? So I've been in talks and trying to get the answer to that, but the guidelines are already set, so it'll be as we get closer to the end of the school year to get the graduation, we'll pull that.
So it will go into effect this year, they could get that.
Yes.
Okay, great.
And one thing I wanted to bring up as you talk about interviewing, I've spent some time in Mr. McElwain's class, and I know we talk soft skills a lot. I know that'll interest you. He does a lot of soft skill interviewing kids, and Jay, if you would just talk about that just a second, because I think that's kind of a big deal.
One of my courses that I teach is Ag Employability Skills. I teach a course, Mr. Cronin also teaches a course. We've got, between the two classes, around 45 or so kids enrolled in those courses. It goes, and it's a dumb title, but it covers it. It's employability skills. Throughout the course of the year, the kids do cover letters, resumes, they fill out I have the kids go out and get job applications. They have to make a resume, they have to draft a cover letter, they have to write a letter of acceptance, a letter of inquiry, a letter of declination. If you get offered a job, how do you turn one down professionally? How do you properly resign from a job? They have to develop a sales presentation to get to pick their own product. It could be, had a kid do the G2 pilot in Kansas this year. I think you were in there. I
think I was.
And they have to develop a marketing plan, how they're going to market it, what the product's learning. They have to develop an advertisement, and they have to get up and give a sales pitch, a la Shark Tank, if you've ever watched Shark Tank. And we watch Shark Tank to give them ideas of how to go about it. They are right now working on what I call a print media unit. They pick their own topic. It must relate to agriculture in some way. It could be beekeeping, it could be fruit gardens, it could be how to use solar power on your farm to cut back on electrical costs, as long as it relates to agriculture. And they have to write an article over it. They have to then take that article and condense it into a pamphlet/brochure, and then they have to condense it even further and do a newsletter piece. And then I put them in groups, and they put together their own newsletter, and I email it out to the rest of the staff. So they're learning writing skills, they're learning interview skills. They give a speech. To date, they've given about 20 speeches in that class, and they'll probably give 5 or 6 more. They'll give about 25 speeches in front of their peers in that class. And then when we had the career fair,
Yes.
2 or 3 of my students, and some of y'all may have come through and seen that, got up and demonstrated proper and improper interviewing techniques. I know
The kids always enjoy that.
Gary Jones and a couple others in the community with Chamber conducted the interviews. So we are stressing, the things it takes to be employable, not just in my class, but in all classes. I mean, that's just one class that's dedicated to that. But all my kids who want to be co-op students, they're required to take that class.
That reminds me of this will age me, my DECA days back, Don Pryor, from a business perspective, and that series of classes did me more good probably than anything I ever took.
And those,
So,
DEC and
glad to see
FBLA
that's
and
continuing.
FFA, all those programs are still doing the same thing. Lots changed, but the core is still there.
Because everything you said was things that we had to do, and it puts you out of your comfort zone, a lot of it.
My son's in DECA, and I can say that has really helped him a lot, but those soft skills, how to talk to an adult, how do you carry that conversation out, it's huge. So as a parent, I've seen it in my own home how beneficial it is.
And I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Chapman to discuss more about our math and some of the great things that we've been able to switch around in math.
In front of you, you have just some common assessment data. This has been a big push in Algebra 2 specifically, is using data and looking at kids and looking at what skills are they missing, what skills do they have. This is just to kind of give you an idea of what you're looking at. I had the standards written. We picked these 3 standards in bold, and you'll see they overlap. In bold are the prerequisite standards for Algebra 2. In regular font are where they come from Algebra 1. These are also the prerequisite skills that they're going to need for geometry. So these are 3 standards that cover the 3 required Algebra 1, Algebra 2 geometry for us in the high school. And we started and we looked at, this is the percentage of kids in Algebra 2. So all 290 some odd kids that were meeting benchmark on these standards on the first assessment, which is in blue, on the second assessment, which is in orange, and then on the third assessment, which is in gray. We are improving. It has been a concerted effort, and it has been intentional. We do something that we refer to as flex grouping, but flex grouping just means that we give an assessment and we regroup our kids. And we really kind of throw out egos and we say, okay, who got the best results? And if my colleague, which is Miss Taylor, if she got the best results, she got the highest number of her kids meeting benchmark, then she got the reteach group because she apparently set it away that helped. So we look at this data and we regroup our kids and we decide who's missing what essential standard. And we group them and we spend we regroup them and they look forward to that. I mean, as shocking as that may sound, they look forward because they know they're going to go somewhere and they're going to get what they need where they're at. We have a reteach group, we have a reinforcement group, it's kind of what we call the middle. They're not quite there on all of them, but they just need a little bit of extra support. And then we have the enrichment group, and those kids don't move on. They don't go beyond where the other kids are. They just get to look at it from a different perspective. And it may be a STEM project. Like we've dosed patients, like we've done anesthesia doses, So they kind of get it from a different perspective, whereas you've got this group of kids that still just needs to get the basics, but these kids are ready to enrich and kind of push forward. So that has been a big change in our department, is the implementation of that, which is pretty, if you kind of think of RTI, you think about interventions, it's embedding that into our day when we need to do that.
What else do you need? What else do you need for your students? I mean, I know when I was in high school, I had pre-algebra as a freshman, and then I had algebra 1, then I had geometry and algebra 2. Not everybody took algebra 2. Why does the state make us take algebra 2? Everybody, right? Yes. Okay, so I know I just think it's just a lot. I think that if you're gonna crank up the tech department, those folks are not gonna be your algebra 2 people, right? I've said this to Mr. Davis.
Discussion with Mr.
I mean, I think it's okay to say this is what we want for our kiddos, but I think when I was in high school, you had a regular diploma, which did not, I think you only had to do maybe 2 or 3 algebras, like pre-algebra, algebra 1, and geometry, and then if you were doing algebra 2, that was your honors diploma. But I'm just saying, I just think it's a lot, but more importantly, what else do you need? I mean,
can I interject something as a parent?
And science is the same. I mean, it's the science, I think the same way of science based on that. So on the proficient and distinguished, what needs to be done there?
I have a daughter and a son at the high school. James is a junior and Kylie's a freshman, and they're two completely different kids. James excels in math, Kylie does not. And so speaking with Ms. Chapman and seeing the concerted effort, this is going to benefit my daughter because she's going to be one of the ones that's going to probably need some of that enrichment or some of that extra time, or maybe she needs to hear it a different way. And I'm fortunate that I am an educator, so I understand how much time and how much effort it takes to group these students and to check your ego at the door and say it's okay that they didn't get it from me, go get it from Lori. And during CCR time, kids are able to, if I'm not mistaken, able to go see Miss Chapman if they need her. Maybe they had Miss Chapman in Algebra 1 and they just want her to give them that extra boost of confidence. Their CCR teachers are letting them go. And so just, I think it's been such a huge movement this year as a council. I know it's something we're really proud of. I know Miss Chapman, it's been a labor of love for her. Between this and some retesting policies, and so it's just I'm just as a parent with one of those children that are going to struggle with algebra 2 and as they go forward because they have to take a math class.
Oh yeah,
and so,
they've got to take
what are we going to do? And so I think it's just I'm really happy as a parent to see that.
Yeah. So what do you need? What do you need for those students?
Well, let me first start with saying that, and then I'll turn it back over to Chapman. We're very fortunate in that it all starts with instructional strategies. It's not just that our kids get the content, but how they're getting the content. So very fortunate enough that Mr. Perkins was able to find some money, and Ms. Penley has helped us secure Kagan training to come in, and all of our math teachers, including 2 special ed teachers who are, 3 special ed teachers who are specifically in the math classrooms, all those teachers will have a sub for 2 days. And a person's coming in from Kagan to present effective instructional strategies, because you can teach them the content all day long, but if we are beyond the days of how you and I remember, which was just memorization. And while that may have worked for us, it doesn't work for our kids anymore that way. And so not only were we able to secure this training through some money that he was able to find, but also Mr. Davis has agreed to help pay for some of those subs along with some of this money that Mr. Perkins has found too. So, and it's going to be a large undertaking with having that many teachers out for those 2 days. But at the end of the day, it's very beneficial. And not only that, with the group coming in, by us just having someone to man the bookstore per se, we are able to get additional money. Every teacher will walk out with resources. And then also because we have someone at the bookstore, we'll be able to get additional monies to where we can get additional resource for that. They came in earlier in the summer to work K through 12 special ed teachers only. But it wasn't just math, it was just instructional strategies, period. And the success that the special ed teachers have had in their classrooms, both in co-teaching and in the resource setting, have been phenomenal, that we just couldn't pass the opportunity up, and have made me a believer out of it. So now they're coming back in to intentionally focus on the math piece of it. So that alone will be huge. And the one thing, Ms. Lavelle, I'll say is that, and this is a common thread, a common problem in our state, which doesn't solve our problem here in the district, is we can't find quality math teachers.
Yeah, we've emergency certified almost every year.
Yeah.
I mean, I think 15 and 16, I know this past year. And I understand, but I just logically, and if I could just say this, what about the middle school math teachers? Do we need to move them up? I'm not asking them to change their gears. I'm just saying, our middle school, it seems...
they're 5'9" as the certification.
Okay, but you see what I'm saying? But I also think we need to be back at 2 high schools. I really think if the culture is a challenge, if you just split that back up and look at it that way, and we know smaller schools are more successful. I'm not trying to be ugly. I'm just saying that's where they've gone to see. We just heard North Middle, they went to a school that was 7th and 8th grade. I mean, and so it's the smaller populations that you can actually get down and help them and not be so maybe overwhelmed. I don't know. I'm not there, so I just say, what do you need?
Sure.
What is it?
And I'll say the opposite is true. At the end, again, studies show smaller schools, but there are also larger schools. Henderson County High School is twice the size that we are, and very successful. McCracken County, almost 3 times the size we are, very successful. So at the end of the day, it's about the instructional strategy piece and about getting effective teachers in the classroom as well. So, but they are really, I will say, and I've made this remark to Mr. Davis, for once in my life, in the position that I'm in, and this is my 6th year, I finally feel better about our math department, because and we're still not there. We still, like you said, the emergency certification piece of it.
And we
it's
did
tough,
science
but we
too.
Just need, yeah, absolutely. But I feel great about where we're headed with our math.
And culturally, just overall, the whole school, the bell-to-bell teaching, the teachers, you feel that's an improvement to what the results we saw in the cultural audit?
I do, but as we know, as leaders that, are
when you're around,
say something else, so,
right.
but, and the parents and the teachers would have to voice that more. But I will say the administrators, counselors, and I, by far, see much greater improvement overall.
One of the things that I would say, and it kind of speaks to what Mr. Council said, but in addition, I have 2 freshmen, both with different math teachers. So I have twin boys, and they have different math teachers, and at different times have found standards that they have struggled with in the classroom, and this coming from North Middle, and wonderful teachers there, but we were at a roadblock. They would never have opportunity to go to someone else and learn a different pattern. So the doors at the high school is open, and provided that they could go to any math teacher almost, or specifically to Ms. Chapman, who neither of them have, and have actually found success in learning that struggle. And I don't know what you could give her to help with that, but I think that thread of allowing someone else to take on a perspective where, again, at the middle school, if we struggled, you really were tied into one teacher, or there was only one other one that didn't have the flexibility to provide opportunity for the students. And that was one of our improvements in the culture also, was communicating and overly communicating, really, if we can, to our students that opportunity is there for them to go to anybody, and making sure our students know that they can get that assistance elsewhere. As a parent, I can say I've been thrilled just, and it's not about one specific teacher, just to know my kids could go and get that help elsewhere and know that it was there. Busy kids, after school engagements, and we all know we put studies first, but sometimes it's nice for them to have that flexibility during the day, like we were talking about in CCR. So it's been a success.
I will just say, as you know, a teacher in the math department, it has been a shift.
Okay.
And it's a check your ego at the door. You know, I've been teaching 12 years, you've been teaching 2 years. You may be more effective on this, and that's okay. What are you doing? And we just are a team. I mean, we sit
And
down,
I'll echo
and
that a little bit.
We talk all the time.
I've been able to sit in, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I've seen that. I've been able to sit in on several PLC meetings with them and do my best not to say anything because what I think I know a little bit is math. So, but I have been pretty quiet. There's no egos. They've owned it. And that's what's impressed me. It's all right, we're not where we want to be. What are we going to do to get better? And they say it over and over. And I mean, they are making strides. They're saying things and doing things that makes me feel that they're moving in the right direction. And I've seen that. Seen it in the classroom as well. But I've seen it when kids aren't in there, and it's not. There's just no egos. It's we've got to get better, and what are we going to do? And
As you get the culture going in the right direction, as it seems to be, that can fix a lot of things. No matter how many buildings you're in, if the culture's not right.
That's right.
We have put a lot of effort into, in Algebra 2, Algebra 1, doesn't matter. If you walk into one classroom and you leave and you walk next door, you are probably going to see a continuation of a lesson all the way down the hallway. Because we plan together and we make sure, no, my delivery will not be the same as the people on either side of me, but the content that the kids are getting and the knowledge that they are gaining that day.
And the bell-to-bell, purposeful, every minute.
It's, I mean, and it is, you know, we have like certain days, you know, we even have Test Prep Friday, that's what we call it. And it is very intentional focus on the ACT on Fridays. We started with pre-algebra. We all give the common assessment. Doesn't matter if you're in pre-algebra, if you're in trig, East Campus, you all take the same assessment. And then we sit down as a department. We say, okay, what kids are missing what, and why do we think they're missing that? And then that guides the bell ringers for the next week.
I think, Ms. Lavelle, one thing that opened my eyes as a parent, I was fortunate to sit through a lot of the math interviews. Ms. Bumps asked me as a parent rep to sit through a lot of the math interviews this summer. And I couldn't even tell you how many we sat through. There was quite a few. And so I didn't understand, why can we not get these people here? You know, and if they're not there, what are we going to do? So we have to emergency certify at that point, but it was a real intentional, how is this person going to fit? Because at that point it comes to, are they going to work well? You know, Ms. Chapman and the other math teachers that were in there, you know, how is that person going to work with you? Because like Ms. Wells said, that culture shift is huge. So if we need to give them a little bit more support on the teaching end, let's make sure that they are going to fit well with what we're trying to do. They're not going to come in and try to rock the boat. They're going to get in the boat and roll the same way. And as a coach, I guess that's kind of my background, is I think, how is this person going to work well? And I think that was a true, that was one of our biggest concerns, I think, through all the interviews was, if we're going to hire this person, how are they going to fit? Because at this point, it's crucial that they fit. And maybe the teaching aspect is lacking as far as the certification, but the knowledge that these individuals that we hired this year brought in, I think was huge. And I was one of the questions Ms. Bumps always asks at the end, or Mr. Carver will ask, is do you want this person teaching your child? And unequivocally 3 or 4 times this year I said absolutely, absolutely. And there was a few times that the answer was no, and we didn't go with that person. And so it's a very open and honest conversation we have when we go through that process. But it was eye-opening to me as a parent, because sitting back, I thought the same thing. Well, why can't we get a math teacher here? I mean, I don't understand. I come from an elementary level where it's Shark Tank. I mean, there's 500 of us going for one job, to where I think, man, there's just one job, and I mean, there's nobody there to take it. And so it kind of blew my mind, but I was very impressed with how intentional we really wanted to make sure that person was going to fit. Because culture, my students and my players this year, this is my 6th year as a coach at the high school, I have never heard my boys say, you know, Coach, I can just tell they love me. I know they're there. And I've had those conversations with my players this year, and I've told Ms. Bumps, and I've shared that site base, that's huge, because if you can get them to know that you love them, they're going to run through the brick wall for you whenever you need. So I think that it's been, as a parent, third year at the high school, in my opinion, it's a huge shift. And I think those true intentional conversations with the students are happening, and I think those bonds are starting to happen with the teachers really investing in those kids in the 2 years that they have them at East. And then the kids able to form those relationships at West, because they're at East, they're there 2 years, they get to know the teachers, and then boom, they're at West. And it's that reacclimation process. Who can I go to? Who can I trust? And it takes a lot of effort on the teachers then to have those deliberate conversations with the kids.
So go back to 2 schools.
Well, I mean, that's out of my control, but
I see your vision, and I'm thinking, well, that teacher would still be there, whether you were a senior or, a junior, and you could go down the hall and visit.
Well, we say that, but it still takes that initial conversation from the teacher. I mean, I had teachers in high school, they were there all 4 years, I knew they could care less. So it's still that initial, deliberate, I'm going to go out of my way to let these kids know that I love them and that I'm there for them. And so I'm very happy. I know Ms. Grove.
Yeah, and in many cases, Josh and I both said that we observed it at open house, not just with our own students, but we were witnessing teachers taking the time to ask students questions about themselves at open house. Before that first day of school, to make that connection. And when we brought that to site-based the first time, he and I both said it, having never met before, and Ms. Bumps is like, that's something we want to see our teachers do. We want to see them build those connections. Again, and that comes back to circling around to us wanting to see the culture change at the high school and shift into that even more positive place and doing all the things Josh just described to you guys.
And as a math teacher, I will say the biggest challenge is a mindset. Because somebody, and this is just me, I've talked to Mr. Davis about this, somebody somewhere told them that they weren't good enough to do this. And so they have to know that I care enough about them, and I have their best interest at heart, and that I do think that they can do this. And for some of those kids, we're there now. I've got them all.
I think and this is not y'all, this is not us. I think the biggest challenge every school in our district and probably every school in the state faces is there are 2 cultures. There's the culture at home, and a lot of times that is nowhere near the culture of school. We've got a lot of room for improvement on inclusion and making everybody feel, but I go in too many homes on weekends and weeknights with the sheriff's department, and you see what's going on, and you wonder how the kid even gets up and comes to school.
School's last priority.
And that is not a priority to them.
No.
What's taking place in their home is a priority. That's our biggest challenge. That's not nothing any of us can do or any y'all can do.
But I have heard a lot of compliments lately about the high school and everything.
We've got to figure out a way to reach that kid, make that kid want.
You're doing a great job.
To reach out to us. It's tough.
Keep it up.
Thank you all.
Thank you so much.
It's a team effort. Thank you all very much. Anything else?
Site-based members, thank you for working for nothing.
Thank you all very much.
Very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
Thanks again, Mr. Calside.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, Longest Elementary, well, you don't have to apologize for being in here late, that's fine. We understand.
Well, board members, I wanted to apologize. I do have a couple of parents that had things come up. We had basketball games that were rescheduled. So, and one of my parents is coaching, and so she was not able to come. Mindy Hardison, Miss Monica Beals, she did mention to me tonight that something came up and she could not make it last minute. So she was planning to be here, so I do apologize about that. I do have my 3 teacher representatives, and I'm very excited. Got a great council going this year. Miss Renee Kincaid, our 5th grade teacher representative. Missy Sanders, she's our computer teacher. She's a teacher representative. And Miss Sarah Wester is our vice chairman and a primary teacher for us at Longest. So we have a short presentation for you, and anyway, along the way, if you have questions, just stop and ask, and we'll go into anything you want to go into. But looking there, you see a couple of the points that we talked about that we were interested in going over. Test scores, pretty straightforward. We had a pretty steady year with overall achievement up a little bit, about a point there, 69.7. gap score, with the way that worked out, with the way the state's formula worked out, we had a big gain there. But that worked out where a previous goal was set and pretty hard to get, and we nailed both those goals. So it kind of elevated that gap score. Growth was down about a couple points there, but we understand why that happens because it's calculated based on 4th and 5th graders, not the whole population. So we did see steady scores in the focus that we have in our reading and math scores. Social studies saw a nice little gain. If we had to look and be critical of any score we had, it was our writing score last year, and it's been an ongoing thing that we've been looking at for years, trying to improve. And it's pretty tough what these kids are asked to do at that age to write and put their thoughts into good passages. But it's an area we continue to work on. Let's talk school culture for a minute.
I'm going to talk school culture. Back at the beginning of the year, one of the things that we did as a faculty was we read the one-word book. I'm sure you all are familiar with that. And after we read the book and we saw our speaker on opening day, we all went back to the school and we all came up with our own word. And we had a little paint party, which was a lot of fun. And we all painted our signs with our words. And those are all placed outside the teachers' doors. We see them every day when we go in and out of our classrooms, and hopefully that's a reminder to us. One thing Mr. Hardison did have us do after Christmas break was reflect on our word and have you used that word this year? And that made you think maybe I'm not using it. It didn't have as good an impact as I wanted to, or it did. So you adjust accordingly. Another thing that we do at Longest is we came up with let me back up a minute. We came up with our school word, which was strong.
Okay.
So Spartan Strong, I think that's kind of catchy. And I do feel like we have a good culture at our school, and we all work really well together. And one thing we do weekly is we call them Spartan Victories. And different teachers and people in the building send those in to Mr. Hardison, and we can all read them. And if you turn in the back of your booklet, we have a few from this week, or last week, I guess, because we're just starting this week. I'm just going to read a couple of them to you, and then you all can read. One says, my Spartan victory goes to a wonderful academic coach who within a week is hosting the district academic meet at Longest. She works so well with these students, and it is amazing to watch them grow from the beginning of the season to the end. The academic meet last week at Longest was very organized, and a lot of teachers realized how difficult the questions for these 4th and 5th graders have been this season. Good luck this weekend to our academic team and our coach, and we did do well at the meet, so we were happy with that. Another one, thank you, Miss Bruce. But you and Miss Armour made the celebration the best. Thank you both for being such good sports and always willing to help the students. That's an encouragement to everyone under your leadership. We have a monthly celebration where we celebrate different accomplishments for the kids, and then in that particular one, we got our assistant principal and our guidance counselor involved in a little event, and the kids love that. So, you all can read those. I don't have to read them to you, but it's really nice to. We all like a pat on the back. We all like to be recognized, and just to hear everybody shouting out for each other makes you feel good. So, I really think we have a good culture at Longest.
Good.
We set up the scooter game that Miss Bruce and Miss Armour got into, and went down there and got them fixed up. We didn't realize the scooters we put them on had really slick wheels, and those things were fast. And so they had some speed in their little relay race. And at some point, we were worried about walls being taken.
They did wear helmets and safety glasses.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Thank y'all for that. The helmets.
That was good. Okay, I think I'm going to be talking about areas of improvement, and at Longest, we're always wanting to grow and learn. We're always wanting to find what is going to meet our students' needs the best. And so it is a climate and a culture where we never go, we're doing it the best. We're constantly seeking out new information, trying to find new ways, and bouncing ideas off of each other in our faculty meetings and through our Spartan victories and different things. I can, a lot of times we'll take ideas from those and think, well, that would work in my classroom. That's something I can do as well. And so I was one of the teachers that was fortunate this summer to go to the Kagan strategies training, which was amazing.
And so I have brought several of those things back and started teaching in my classroom and incorporating bit by bit. And Kagan strategies are they deepen understanding. So many times, and I feel like we're probably not the only school where you know teachers are doing their job, you know teachers are working, you see and hear it, and that grade above you is going, did you all not cover this? And we say we did, we know. And a lot of times, these things don't stick. Our students don't have the background knowledge necessarily to make things comprehensive. I just lost that. Make them comprehend the skill. And so Kagan strategies deepen their understanding. They put the student voice in where teachers aren't teaching, students are teaching each other, small group strategies, and little by little we've started building these more and more in our school. Our work day yesterday, we actually did some Kagan trainings, and Mr. Hardison has challenged all of us this week to incorporate a new strategy into our classroom and to reflect on it. And so I'm really excited to see how other grades, other teachers are going to benefit from. My first graders love it, and it's really helped my classroom. It's helped my structure in my classroom. I've always been a teacher who loves thoughtful ed, but thoughtful ed sometimes takes those management strategies out, and Kagan combines the two so that you have a very manageable classroom, but they're also having a very deep understanding of the content. And so that's something that we are sending a team of 8 in March to get more training and be able to bring back and help really deepen their understanding and their comprehension. We also have lots of software that we use and we love. Lexia, we know that's a board website that you all encourage, and we are so thankful for it, especially in the lower primary. It's amazing the diagnostic information we get on individualized students so that as teachers we can address exactly what they're having trouble with. Whether it's long vowel sounds, it works wonders for intervention for tier 2 and tier 3. It's an amazing program and we're super thankful for that. We just started incorporating Splash Math, which is going to be a very similar program to Lexia that gives us that same information, only it's a math-based program. And so we just started that a couple weeks ago, I believe, and already I have students who have shown me what facts they're mastering and moving right along. I've got a little guy getting ready to complete all of his first grade math standards, and so he'll move on to second grade. And so it really is individualizing their instruction for them.
Sarah, I got a report today. We have 87,161 problems have been answered on Splash Math, and we've got over 80% accuracy. Over 19 days and 9 hours and 20 minutes worth of time school-wide. So we're pretty excited about how much skill development is going on with this. And this came about through one of our PLCs. We got to talking about what software we have for math, and we had Moby Max, and the teachers in the PLC were talking, they weren't big fans of it. And so we brought Moby Max in front of the council, and we talked about renewing it because we didn't have a better option. Well, one of the teachers talked about Splash Math as an option, and before you know it, we've got a school-wide free period there for the rest of the school year. Teachers are burning it up. Kids are loving it. And so we're looking at maybe having it next year, but it's really benefiting our kids right now. And you can see by the numbers, Ms. Wester, your group is the high accuracy group in the building, 93%. So,
and that's what I love to see, the accuracy. I mean, you want them to be fluent by the time they leave me, but a lot of programs, a lot of things don't track their accuracy. And so with having this information, you know whether they're just guessing or whether they actually know. So it's really an amazing program.
Is it level? I know Lexia, our children were like so excited. I got to level whichever, and they were proud on Lexia. So is it kind of level based so they can brag?
Exactly.
What they do is
I hate to say brag, but they're proud of it.
And then they get coins or something like that. Then they go and buy things for like an aquarium or like a little world where they can buy.
It's just like an app they might have.
Really, exactly.
It's really engaging.
You know what I mean?
And that's Moby Max. We liked the fact fluency that it had with it, and I felt bad being the teacher that says, "Okay, just do your 5 minutes. Just come on, guys," because they really weren't enjoying it. It was a chore.
Yeah.
And we started our day with 5 minutes. I'm like, come on, guys, but Splash Math, they're asking. If they have all their work done, can I log in? Can I get a laptop and use? And of course, because it is individualized and pushing their levels. And like he said, they enjoy because they can buy and build their worlds. And several of mine got to open their aquarium this week, so they're adding fish and things.
And they all know 250 coins get you a new world.
Yes.
They're all
good.
New worlds.
They're achieving.
They are. I think I started with Kagan because it is one of my passions and I do enjoy incorporating it. And so I'm going to move right on to, we're really trying to focus on rigor in our classrooms. That's something that, we want to make sure all our teachers school-wide are doing bell to bell. Personally, I only know what goes on in my classroom bell to bell. And so we really do enjoy meeting with our administration team, every month, talking about these things, seeing them in our rooms, because they're the ones that see what everybody's doing. And so it is good to be able to have that time to meet together and reflect. Our teams meet weekly, and they're usually in and out of our meetings, once a week here and there, and then we always have intervention meetings once a month, and our administration, we all meet together as a team once a month. And that just, it's a time for us, it kind of goes back to the culture, but it's a time for us to feed off of each other what we're struggling with, what we need help with, and give those praises to each other too. And so this time of year, we are having to have some of those tough parent conversations. We're having to have those P5 meetings, and it's enjoyable and encouraging to have the support of your entire team and your faculty with you in these things. And so it's been really a good year at Longest, and we're constantly wanting to improve and build upon things.
Good. Sounds good.
I'll talk just briefly about our school visit. We made a contact with Davis County, and they recommended a couple schools, and the first one to respond back with us was Audubon Elementary, and these three schools they recommended all had solid reading programs, and we wanted to kind of compare what we're doing with a solid program over there. And so we went in. The principal was just really open with having us in. We took a team from teachers from each grade level. It was a great day. We spent the day first of all kind of taking a look at just how their building was arranged, how their schedules were. Went in and the different groups we just broke apart, and like our fourth and fifth grade went and observed at their levels. Other teachers went at their other levels, and we observed class, and then we had opportunities to catch them during planning periods, so we had time to just talk with the teachers, and they gave us a lot of, they've really hit upon a few programs that are a little bit different than us, and some programs that we've done in the past, so they're not that far off. So it was a bit reassuring of where we are and what we're trying to do. But we picked up a number of free websites that we've put into action. We liked some of the ways that they're doing their writing and prompting their kids for their extended responses. So it was very interesting. But I do appreciate Davis County and Audubon Elementary opening their doors to us. Anything else I want to talk about there?
I do want to add, and I'm sorry just to jump in, one thing that came back from that visit that was then taken to our PLCs was the reading math rotation, where they have an alternate schedule 2 days a week, and they rotate and do math in the morning and reading in the afternoon. And I am a structure teacher that when they told me this, I said no. I said I like my reading in the morning, I like my kids, but I agreed to try it for a couple weeks, and it's been pretty amazing seeing how kids respond differently in the morning versus in the afternoon. And a lot of times, you're fresher in the morning, you feel better, and I feel like those days we put a lot more focus on our math. And so I'm seeing a lot more growth in both areas versus just my reading scoring.
So you're mixing it up.
We are. 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays, we do our math first.
Okay.
And that was something they brought back from that visit. And I thought, well,
every person's different.
That's try it and see what happens. And little ones do respond better in the morning. And so a lot of times after lunch and after they're tired and it's not sinking in quite as well. So it really has
harder.
been beneficial.
Once you start going to lunch and recesses and things just kick in, it seems like that afternoon's just a busy time.
Hard to get them engaged.
Yes.
Back in gear.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to talk about school safety for a little bit. And I know safety is a big concern right now for all of us. We do have safety drills. We have the required ones each month, and we have them thrown in every once in a while. And they always, never at the same time. We never know when they're going to happen. In fact, the last lockdown drill we had, 5th grade was at recess, and they ended up with 67 kids in our lobby
Concession
stand. And
Quiet
Mr.
as
Hardison didn't even know they were in there. They were all in there squished together. We did it, you know, but
We also pulled the fire alarm.
yes, and they pulled the fire alarm on us.
Nobody left?
Nobody left.
Excellent.
You know, and some kids wanted
They
to.
tried. They
Yeah, we
wanted
were
to,
like,
but-
no, we can't because it could, you know, they could be tricking us. And we do have, all of us have the keyless badges now, and we just can swipe it and get in the building.
The big thing there is.
The big thing there
There's no
is-
floating keys out there that we don't know who has those. So we basically have 2 or 3 keys that the janitors and I have, and that is the only external keys. And other than that, you have to have a badge that is assigned to you. So that is, and the badge, if it gets misplaced or whatever, we can go in there and quickly on a computer shut that down, and where it's not a security threat. So it's a great option.
And during the drills, you know, we never let them know they're a drill. For example, the last fire drill we had, I just happened to have kindergarten that day, and I had one crying on me. And I said, buddy, what's wrong? He thought the building was really on fire, and he was gonna have to get a new backpack. And I was like, buddy, it's a drill. It's not on fire, you know, but they take it serious. You know, we teach them, let's get out, and they just take it as serious as can be. And so, and I think and we act like we're comfortable with them. Like, for example, the day that we had to go in lockdown, the day of the shooting in Marshall County, that day, even though I was a nervous wreck thinking something's happened, something's wrong, you know, I couldn't let the kids see that. But they're so used to us practicing those things, they were fine just sitting under their, hiding in the back, or, you know, and after a little while they said, Miss Sanders, we've been here a long time. And I said, it's okay, we're just gonna keep on sitting here and be quiet, you know, and we're just practicing, you know, you had to encourage them. But I think it helps because we do it so often that they were comfortable, they weren't scared.
And I was in the building that day, and it was very impressive. You know, with the young ones, it's hard.
Yeah.
You don't want to scare them, you want to take it seriously, but you don't want to scare them. And you guys had obviously practiced and obviously had a plan in place and kept them calm, and because that was a tough time, tough day.
Yeah.
It was a difficult day, and that's, as teachers, you know, you stay as professional as you can. You don't, our kids had no idea anything had happened in our area.
Yeah.
And again, they had no idea anything was going on close by. They just thought we were practicing. And so I had 22 first graders, and they sat as still as can be, and nobody moved, and we all just kind of took a second to breathe and have some quiet time. So, I mean, no one left that day scared or upset or worried. They're unfortunately, they're used to it, and they know what to do.
And I have to say that day the police were incredible, Central Dispatch getting us information, and even the parents who couldn't come in, totally understanding, they were supportive. It was a very unfortunate and a very bad day for anything to happen, but
Right.
I have to say, very impressed with everyone involved.
And we appreciate that.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
we'd rather be
think-
too safe.
Right.
If I took any heat at all that day, was a little bit on Facebook late in the day because our message was a little bit late getting out, because the way the drill fell, when it was all clear, we were pretty much ready to load our buses and go. So there wasn't an opportunity to go into communication mode because we had to take care of kids and dismiss. So it took me a few minutes longer versus, I think Mr. Rager was able to get the message out a little bit quicker than I was because, you know, he didn't have that dismissal time right backed up to. So as soon as we were able to get the kids on their way home, we started, you know, communicating out, and we had a couple of negative comments on Facebook, but, you know, followed up, we had a couple parents that jumped in there and said, hey, they did what they needed to do. They took care of the kids, and that's what it's all about. And we appreciate that support. And that's, at the end of the day, they know they can trust what we're trying to do. And we're very upfront with the kids. We talk them through why it's important to take it seriously, but move calmly. And, you know, there's no running during these things because, you know, sometimes that can lead to bigger injuries than you know, what it is. So, but that is pretty much it. I mean, we work hard over there. We're very proud of our school. We've got a great staff. It's been a great year we talked about, and I'm excited about the Kagan strategies. I had 2 teachers meet me today, said, Mr. Hardison, I tried them today, and the kids loved it. And it's something that's really going to pick up student engagement, and that's what we're searching for, getting more kids engaged.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
site-based members, thank you for thankless work. And I do apologize when you go in, if they run a little long, so we'll learn next year if we do it. Maybe back up that last one 30 minutes, live and learn. But again, we appreciate you.
Thank you all. You're doing a good job.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you for the pin, both pins. Pin. P-I-N and P.
So Jarson, you need mine to give to her.
Yeah, we have one.
Okay. All right.
Be nice for her.
We just have to love pins, and she's always taking our pins.
Miss Armour says, please enjoy those. These pins are really hard to come by.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, I guess I need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Susan.
All right.
Second by you. All in favor of adjourn?
Rajiv, you do the second? All right.